Chapter 1909. 1909 Big Brother 1909. The headmaster of Gate 9 Academy was going to make a move. A voice filled with ridicule resounded throughout the entire spiritual pedestal peak. Everyone was stunned. First, it was said that Gate 9 Academy students were all in ruins. Then, it was ridiculed that Gate 9 Divine Son. That little girl was so powerful. Little girl, I think you're courting death. Did you really think that I wouldn't dare to make a move? How could our Gate 9 Divine Son be bound by the eyes of the secular world? The killing intent in Gate 9's Divine Son's eyes intensified when he heard Kyr's words. He stared coldly at Kyr and said callously, based on ordinary secular behavior, if he made a move to harm the students of Longmen Academy, he would definitely be disgraced by everyone. However, he was the Son of God, Gate 9's Divine Son, so how could he be bound by the secular world? He didn't need to explain his actions to anyone. He acted completely according to his own mood, without any scruples. Everyone around felt the aura from the 9th Divine Son, and their faces changed drastically. Who dares to cause trouble on the celestial race's Hua Mountain? At this moment, a cold voice came from afar. Buzz. Instantly, a young man with a lofty aura and an unruly expression appeared in the sky above the spiritual pedestal peak. His gaze swept through the surroundings and landed on Shensi Men. Shensi Men, it's not good for you to cause trouble in our divine clan, right? The young man stared at Shensi Men and asked indifferently. He didn't seem to be afraid of his identity or background. Oh. Shensi Men stared at the young man, his eyes shining. Shensi, this Divine Peak Corporation's eldest young master's strength is very terrifying. At this moment, an old man standing beside Shensi Menjio reminded him in a low voice. Shensi Menjio's eyes flickered. The two old men beside him had been sent by her mother since she was young. The two of them were at the 8th level demigod realm. Other than the top-tier experts of the other 4 major forces, no one else was their match. To be able to make 2 8th level demigod realm experts call them terrifying, one could imagine how powerful they were. I'm very sorry, young Master Shinfeng. Someone attacked my student and we, Gate 9, naturally can't remain indifferent. Gate 9's Divine Son said to the youth with a smile. Oh, someone dares to attack Gate 9's Divine Son. He's quite bold. Seeing that Gate 9's Divine Son was giving him face, the youth's expression softened a little. He swept his gaze toward Huar and the others. Dragon Gate Academy? He raised his brows and said indifferently. Greetings, young Master Shinfeng. Yi Chen and the others saw the young man and felt their hearts tremble slightly. They bowed and shouted. The eldest young master of the celestial race is so powerful. He instantly shocked the 2 great academies. Even the tyrannical 9th Divine Son of the celestial race was somewhat afraid of him. He's an expert who sits on the God Ascension role alone. The eldest young master of the celestial race is someone who has great opportunities. When everyone saw the young man's arrival, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Who told you to make a move on my celestial race's Mount Hua? Where's your principal, Xiao Ran? The young man stared arrogantly at Yi Chen and the others as he asked coldly. A faint pressure spread downwards. Young Master Shinfeng, 2 of our academy's little princesses were startled by them when they had an epiphany in front of the spiritual pedestal. Yi Chen broke out in a cold sweat under the pressure and hurriedly explained with his head lowered. Epiphany? The young man raised his eyebrows and then continued, no matter what, anyone who dares to make a move in our land of the Celestials must be punished, no matter what faction you come from. As he spoke, he slowly stretched out his hand. How overbearing. At this moment, everyone around once again felt the tyranny of an expert. The eldest young master of the celestial race did not care at all about the other party's identity as a student of Longmen Academy, and directly wanted to punish him. Elder sister, this fellow seems to be more powerful than us. Huar stood on the spiritual pedestal peak, her brows tightly knitted as she spoke to her elder sister. Kyr nodded. She slowly touched the star grass on her forehead without the slightest bit of fear. Let me tell you, it was that group of fellows who provoked us first. If you dare to bully us, I'll have Daddy beat you up. Huar saw that the guy wanted to punish them, so she pouted and said angrily. No one dares to cause trouble in the celestial race. On account of your status as students of the Dragon Gate Academy, I'll give you a slight punishment. I'll let you know whose territory this is. The young man proudly announced indifferently. If it wasn't for the fact that he hadn't recovered his strength yet, if it wasn't for the fact that there was a god behind door 9, and if it wasn't for the fact that door 9's divine son's attitude was better, he wouldn't have cared so much today. Those who dared to cause trouble on the celestial race's Hua Mountain all had to be punished. They were overbearing and domineering, causing everyone around them to show respect. Even door 9 looked at the domineering young man in astonishment, his eyes flickering. Oh, someone dares to touch my daughter? However, at this moment, a faint voice sounded. Who? The young man's expression changed slightly when he heard this voice. His gaze was fixed on the position beside Flower. Daddy. Huar was pleasantly surprised when she heard the voice. Kair also looked over immediately. However, there was a hint of shyness, a hint of dependence, and a hint of discomfort in her gaze when she looked at Wang Xian. She opened her mouth but failed to utter the word in the end. Wang Xian stroked her head and looked at the familiar figure in the sky indifferently. Repeat what you said just now. Wang Xian looked at him and said faintly. It's him? In the sky, when the young man saw Wang Xian, his heart was immediately shaken and his heart was in turmoil. Damn, how could it be him? Fuck. The young man's facial expression changed drastically. Ever since he, Shen Fengzi, regained his memories after being revived, there were not many people in this world who were afraid of him. Having cultivated the heaven and earth concealment technique, he was confident that he would be able to hide from those gods. The only person who frightened him was the person from half a year ago. After all, that person was the only person on earth who had slaughtered a god. Furthermore, the sea god did not even escape with a drop of blood. His divine kingdom had been devoured. The other party had an extremely terrifying eye technique that was specially used to counter his concealment technique. This could be said to be the person he feared the most on earth. He didn't expect to meet him again after more than half a year. Moreover, it was in this manner and it was when he was acting pretentious. Oh, who is that person? How dare he speak to the eldest young master of the celestial race like that? He descended in an instant. He's also a demigod expert and the father of those 2 girls. Who is he? I'm afraid this fellow is doomed. Even the 9th son of deity is polite to the first young master of the celestial race. How can he be so arrogant? The surrounding people were slightly shocked when they saw Wang Xian appearing in an instant. They looked at him in astonishment. However, what happened next shocked everyone. Big brother, I mean the 2 little princesses are really cute. This is the first time we've met. This is a gift prepared for the 2 little princesses. I hope they like it. Shen Fengzi's body trembled and the corner of his mouth twitched. He quickly landed beside Wang Xian. Gritting his teeth, he took out 2 treasures from his interspatial ring and handed them over. He stuttered a little. Chapter 1910. 1910-1900 was dumbstruck. What? At this moment, when everyone saw the celestial young master suddenly appear next to the young man out of thin air and take out the treasure with a face full of respect and stuttering, they were all stunned. What was going on? Just a moment ago, the celestial young master was still invincible, and even the 9th divine son was very afraid of him. Now why was he so respectful to the young man who appeared out of thin air? How was this possible? Ichimpich, who cares about your things, daddy? He said he wanted to punish us just now. At this moment, Huar's voice rang out. She snorted coldly and raised her head to shout at Wang Xian. No one can bully you. Wang Xian stroked Huar's head and squinted his eyes at the young man in front of him. Big brother, I really didn't know that they were your daughters. Little princesses, I was wrong. I Shen Fengzi failed to recognize Mao Tai. Seeing the change in Wang Xian's expression, Shen Fengzi was on the verge of tears. He gritted his teeth and continued to take out the 2 treasures from his interspatial ring. The 2 wood spirit pearls were emitting powerful energy. They were at least at the peak of the demigod realm. Little princesses here. You are of the wood attribute. Take them and cultivate. What Big Brother said just now was nonsense. Don't be calculative with Big Brother. Kamikaze hurriedly handed the wood spirit pearl to Huar and Kair and said with a sad face. Huar stared at the wood spirit pearl with a little light. She narrowed her small eyes and smiled. Seeing that you are so obedient, I won't let daddy hit you. The 2 little princesses are kind-hearted. I wish that the little princess will become more and more beautiful in the future. When Kamikaze heard Huar's words, he was delighted and quickly said to Huar with a smile on his face. I forgive you. When Huar heard Kamikaze's words, she could not help but giggle. Her eyes narrowed like crescent moons. What the little princess said is the truth. Kamikaze secretly looked at the great demon king's expression in front of him and immediately said with a smile on his face. At this moment, Xinyuan Wu was stunned. All the students of the Dragon Gate Academy were stunned. The people of the Gate 9 Academy were also stunned. The people around them were even more stunned. What did they see? Was this the young master of the celestial race just now? Why did it feel like he had changed into a different person in an instant? Was this dog-licking look still the same as the overbearing celestial young master from earlier? Huarakayer, is there anyone bullying you guys? Wang Xian glanced at the two girls indifferently and looked at the group of people from the Gate 9 Academy. The son of deity and the two elders beside him frowned slightly when they saw Wang Xian's gaze. They looked at Wang Xian in astonishment. They were puzzled. What was the identity of this young man that made that young master of the celestial race so fearful? Daddy, there's more. When images appeared in my mind just now. There's nothing else. We are about to grow up. We can settle some matters ourselves. Huar wanted to continue speaking, but she was suddenly interrupted by Kair. Huar was slightly stunned. She blinked her eyes and looked at her sister. When Wang Xian heard Huar's words, he also frowned slightly. His eyes were sparkling. In the past, when Kair talked to him, she would always call him daddy. Then let's go back. Wang Xian suddenly felt a little annoyed and said to Huar, "Okay." Kair nodded her head. Wang Xian's figure moved and disappeared with them, leaving behind a group of people with shocked expressions. Phew. When Shen Fengzi saw that Wang Xian had disappeared, he instantly heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He turned his head and sensed the shocked expressions of everyone around him. His expression changed drastically again. If anyone were to say anything about what happened just now, I will kill all of you. He shouted sternly and swept his murderous aura across everyone around him. Following that, his body disappeared in an instant. He had escaped. It was too embarrassing. Although he did not kneel down like last time, there were many people around him today. Everyone around was stunned. They did not react until the eldest young master disappeared for more than 10 seconds. To be able to make the young master of the celestial race so fearful, what is the strength of that young man? Divine Son Menjio's face darkened slightly when he saw them leave. He asked the two elders beside him. Young master, we didn't see the young man's strength clearly either, but we can be sure that he isn't a god. An elder said with a slight frown. The god who had lit the divine fire had divinity on him. He was mighty even when he wasn't angry. They didn't sense it from the young man just now. There's another possibility. The other party is a high-level member of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, or a person with great fortune who once defeated the eldest young master of the celestial race. Another old man guessed. Shensi Minjio nodded, but his expression soon became ugly. A powerhouse actually sent his daughter to the Dragon Gate Academy. That Dean Xiaoran of the Dragon Gate Academy is really shameless. Damn it. As he spoke, his eyes sparkled. Let's go. Shensi Minjio's face was gloomy. The Shensi paused for a moment and said to an elder beside him, use all your strength to investigate all the information about that young man. With that said, he clenched his fists tightly, and a trace of unwillingness appeared on his face. Yes, Shensi. The elder nodded and left in an instant. Divine Son Menjio and the others also left toward the pyramid with heavy expressions. It's over just like that? Who was the last young man to appear? I don't know, but this is going to be a big deal. The 5 Great Academies Grand Competition hasn't even started yet, and Longmen Academy has already crushed Menjio Academy. If this were to be posted on the internet, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. In the surrounding area, the rest of the people from the spiritual pedestal peak saw them leaving and were chatting in astonishment. Let's go, sister. Let's go and rest first. As soon as they returned to the mountain peak where they were staying, Kair pulled the flowers and ran into the room. Hey sister, why are you pulling me? Looking at Kair and the flowers entering the room, Wang Xian was slightly lost in his thoughts as he looked at their figures. Sigh, forget it. There will be a day like this. Although the day will come sooner than I expected. Wang Xian smiled bitterly. He had seen Kair's recent situation. The two little ones had apparently awakened some memories for some reason. The big flowers didn't think too much about it. However, Kair, who had always been a lady, seemed to have recalled something. Speaking of which, Wang Xian had already integrated himself into the role of a father over the past half a year. Now that he saw that the two little fellows had regained their memories and might be leaving him, Wang Xian still felt a little reluctant to part with them and had other special feelings. Forget it. I'll do whatever I need to do. Wang Xian shook his head and came to the top of the mountain peak. He was slightly lost in thought. Chapter 1911. 1911 The Wrath of the 1911 Sect 9 Divine Son. Sister, why did you pull me over? I still want to play with Daddy for a while. In the room on the mountain peak, Hua pouted as she looked at her sister and said unhappily. Kai Er looked at her sister and didn't know what to say for a moment. Although her memories hadn't fully recovered, she had already recovered more than half of them. She had already understood some things. However, she remembered everything clearly when they were resurrected. She remembered how she called that young man as her father back then. She also remembered how much that young man doted on them. In fact, her heart was filled with dependence, but... Sigh. Kai sighed slightly and sat by the side in a daze. At the peak of the mountain, Wang Xian was also looking at the magnificent scenery around him. He was slightly lost in his thoughts. At this moment, a video on the internet caused a huge sensation. The name of the video was, "The competition between the 5 major academies had yet to begin, and Longmen Academy had completely crushed Gate 9 Academy." In the video, it was a battle between the elite students of Longmen Academy and the elite students of Gate 9 Academy. The video was recorded clearly from the start of the battle between the 2 academy students until the end. When everyone saw the video of the 2 little girls from the Dragon Gate Academy crushing the students from the 9 Gates Academy, they immediately became excited. Damn, the students from the 9 Gates Academy are too trashy. They were actually pressed to the ground by the Dragon Gate Academy. No matter what, the 9 Gates Academy is one of the 3 academies. How could they be so weak? The 2 little girls from the 9 Gates Academy are so strong. But isn't the 9 Gates Academy too trashy? They were completely crushed. How can they be called one of the 3 great academies? Isn't the 9 Gates Academy too weak? They were able to become one of the 3 academies because of the 9 Gates Divine Son's background. Otherwise, they wouldn't be worthy of being called the 3 Gates Academy. It's not that the 9 Gates Academy is trashy. It's that those 2 girls are too monstrous. What kind of strength do they have? The video had been broadcasted for tens of millions of times in a short period of time. When everyone saw the scene in the video, they couldn't help but say with their mouths agape. The 2 great academies had fought before the grand competition, and in the end, the Gate 9 Academy was crushed. This was simply too embarrassing. In a short period of time, the internet was filled with people ridiculing the Gate 9 Academy as trash. If the founder of the Gate 9 Academy wasn't the Son of God, he probably wouldn't have the qualifications to be called the 3rd Academy. Of course, there were also people who noticed that the 2 little girls of the Dragon Gate Academy were too monstrous, but many people ignored them. Being crushed was being crushed, so how could they blame the Dragon Gate Academy for having 2 monstrous students? The tournament of the 5 great academies had been the hottest topic recently, and now it was even more attracting people's attention. In the past few days, there were even some people who guessed which academy would be ranked first. At first, many people were very optimistic about the 9 Gates Academy, but in a short period of time, the 9 Gates Academy was called the weakest and most trashy academy. It was even inferior to the Sky Palm Academy and the Spirit Peak Academy, which couldn't even be called the 3rd Academy. Bastard, who sent it? Who sent it? This bunch of fellows deserve to die. Bang bang. At this moment, in the incomparably huge pyramid beside Mount Hua, the 9 Gates Divine Son was smashing the things in the room with a face full of rage. His entire body was filled with killing intent as he stared at the computer in front of him, his body trembling slightly. Divine Son. In front of him, 2 beautiful women were kneeling there and trembling when they saw the Divine Son, who was suddenly enraged. Their Divine Son's temper wasn't very good. Many maids were often injured or even beaten to death by him. When they thought of the miserable state those maids had been in, the 2 women became even more afraid. Jean E. He shouted toward the door with a face full of killing intent. Divine Son. An old man immediately walked in from outside the door. When he saw the smashed room, he immediately bowed and said, Divine Son, what orders do you have? Has Jean found any information about that young man? Divine Son Minjio suppressed the fury in his heart and growled in a low voice. Divine Son, Jin shouldn't have found any information in such a short time. I'll contact him immediately. The old man hurriedly said. Our School 9 must not lose tomorrow's grand competition. Moreover, School 9 must get first place definitely. The ninth son of deity roared in a low voice. When he had established School 9, he had aspired to become the leader of all the academies. This time he was also aiming for first place in the grand competition. He wanted to prove to his mother that he was powerful. However, the competition had yet to begin and the reputation of the Gate 9 Academy had been completely destroyed. In fact, the academy that was called the most trashy academy was all supported by the god behind him. How could this not make him furious? Seeing the messages one by one, killing intent welled up in his heart. In the following competition, the Gate 9 Academy could not afford to lose. However, because of the existence of the two girls, it was impossible for the Gate 9 Academy to win. If that young man doesn't have a powerful background, then kill those two girls. Kill them. It's all because of them. He roared tyrannically. Kill them? The old man was slightly stunned. He immediately bowed and said, Divine Son, think twice. That young man can make the eldest young master of the celestial race so respectful. He must be quite powerful. He's not a god. As long as he doesn't have a god behind him, our Sect 9 will be afraid of him. If he infuriates this Divine Son, I'll kill him. Sect 9's Divine Son said tyrannically. Divine Son, there with the disciples of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. I'll get Jin to ask some of the experts of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. If he's a high-ranking official of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, we should be able to get the news soon. The old man immediately said. Ask him to give me the news within an hour. As long as he's not a high-ranking official of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, we'll take action. Shensi Minzhou's eyes shot out killing intent as he said in a cold voice. It's the Shensi. The elder nodded respectfully and immediately contacted the other elder. The higher-ups of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. The elder immediately took action after receiving the information. It might take him some time to find out the specific identities of the two girls' fathers. However, it was much easier to find out if they were the higher-ups of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. As an expert who had also descended to Earth, although the few major factions were not very harmonious, it was still relatively easy for him to find one of the other party's high-ranking officials. He had seen Wang Xian's face before. He could completely condense it with energy. As long as he was looking for some divine sons of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace and asked the experts on the God-sealing role, he would know. With a target in mind, the old man immediately took action. With his cultivation of the 8th level of the Profound Void tier, it was very easy to find them. Divine Son, Jin sent a message that the young man is not among the higher-ups of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. An hour later, the old man entered the room of the 9th Divine Son in the pyramid and reported. No? Ah, good. Those two damn girls have brought shame to our School 9 Academy. I will kill them tonight. No, capture those two girls, tsk. He stood up with a malevolent expression and licked his tongue, his face filled with lust. 5 minutes later, two naked corpses lay at his feet. It was those two mates. Chapter 1912. 1912 Dragon's Wrath 1. Son of Deity, although that mysterious middle-aged man is not a high-ranking official of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, he is very powerful. With our strength. In the pyramid room next to Mount Hua on the Divine Mountain, the old man frowned slightly as he spoke to the 9th Son of Deity. The old man and the others were not too surprised by the two little girls' revenge. They understood the Son of Deity's character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. However, according to second brother Jin's investigation, although that young man was not a high-ranking official of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, he was able to make the eldest young master of the celestial race so fearful. He was not someone they could easily deal with. As long as he is not a godly state expert, everything is negotiable. A ferocious look appeared on 9th Gate's Son of Deity's face. He slowly extended his hand, and there was an incense stick in his palm. This incense stick emitted a dreamy luster. Dream God incense. The old man looked at the incense in Shensi Men's hand and was shocked. Shensi, with the Dream God incense, I can definitely complete the mission and kidnap those two little girls. There might even be a chance to take that young man's head. The old man immediately bowed and said, When Jin comes back, all of you will make a move together. The corner of the divine son of Menjio's mouth curled up slightly as he said faintly, "It's the divine son." The old man took the dream god incense and respectfully retreated outside. The dream god incense was a kind of treasure that was similar to the hypnotic incense. By lighting up this incense, it would be able to hypnotize everyone below the godly state. The effect of this incense was extremely powerful. Only the descendants of Menjio, a god, had the chance to obtain such a precious item. "Huarkire, are you still eating tonight?" The sun was gradually setting. On a mountain peak in Mount Hua, Wang Xian came to Huarkire's room and asked, "Daddy, eat, I want to eat." The door opened and Huar looked at Wang Xian with a smile on her face. She looked very happy. "Daddy, sister said that she's not hungry. I'm not eating anymore." Following that, Huar looked at Kire who was in the room and continued to speak to Wang Xian. "Kire is not hungry. Come and eat then." Wang Xian looked at Kire who had her back facing him in the room and didn't say anything. Most of this girl's memories should have been awakened and she didn't know how to face him. After all, they were once gods and had lived for an unknown number of years. They once had their own parents and relatives. Now that they had a father, it was naturally difficult for them to accept it. They didn't know how to deal with it. "Come, let daddy carry you down. What do you want to eat?" Wang Xian carried Huar and asked with a smile. "I want to eat meat, eat meat." Huar shouted happily. "Daddy?" In the room, Kire sensed that Wang Xian and Huar had left. A hint of bitterness appeared on her delicate little face. She couldn't help but hold her chin with both hands. The awakening of her memories was hard for her to accept as a father. She and her younger sister perished in the battlefield more than 100,000 years ago. At that time they were already over 1,000 years old. Although they didn't have a family, they had parents who loved them very much. Even now their parents might still be alive. It was hard for her to get used to calling someone else a father all of a sudden. However, she was full of reliance on the young man who had carried them out of the divine kingdom and raised them. More than half a year after her memories hadn't fully awakened, she could feel that young man's doting, care, and love for them. Now that her memories had awakened, she had a very special feeling. "Sai, what should we do next?" Kire scratched her hair and looked outside in a daze. "Sister, Daddy asked me to bring you your favorite cake. Here." Half an hour later, Huar walked over with a cake in her hand and a smile on her face. "Oh?" Kire looked at the cake in her sister's hand and was slightly lost in thought. The memories of the two little girls should be fully restored soon. I wonder how they will react. At the top of the mountain peak, Wang Xian shook his head slightly as he looked at Mount Hua, which was shrouded in divine light. After an entire afternoon, he had already gotten over it. The two little girls were not his daughters to begin with. He knew that this day would come sooner or later. Under the slight discomfort, he had also gotten over it. Ha! At this moment, Wang Xian's eyebrows twitched slightly as he looked towards the north. That was the land of the 9 dragons. Is someone targeting the dragon soul again? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and his figure disappeared instantly. He appeared in the sky above the land of the 9 dragons. It's another god that has been resurrected. Furthermore, there are 3 of them. One of them is exuding an evil aura. When Wang Xian was floating in the air, he looked down. There were 3 figures 10,000 meters deep underground. Wang Xian had seen 2 of them before. One of them was a country bumpkin who had already obtained the dragon soul. The other was the young master of the celestial race. Wang Xian had never seen the last one before. However, his strength was indeed the strongest among the 3 of them. He had the cultivation of a level 9 demigod. In the past half a year, Wang Xian had sensed many people searching for the dragon soul, including the gods from the other 4 forces. However, Wang Xian did not manage to capture it. After the gods obtained the dragon soul, they might use special methods to refine it, or they might discover the situation of the dragon soul. Therefore, he did not order the gods to capture the dragon soul. As for the rest of them, they were all heaven's favorites or even those at the insightful void tier. Naturally, Wang Xian could not let them obtain it. This country bumpkin has quite a big appetite. He even wants to obtain a second dragon soul. Wang Xian looked at the country bumpkin who was holding the dragon-seeking array, and a cold expression appeared on his face. After the country bumpkin obtained the dragon soul, he had spent a huge amount of resources in the past 6 months to create the body of a true dragon. It might not be long before he could use the dragon soul to ignite the divine fire. However, he was clearly a little greedy. He wanted to obtain more dragon souls. The resources of the country bumpkins are no longer sufficient to raise the dragon soul to the godly state. The young master of the celestial race and another young man who is emitting an evil aura can let them obtain the dragon soul. Wang Xian revealed a look of contemplation. Finally, his gaze landed on the young man who was emitting an evil aura. He was also a god who had been resurrected and was very powerful. After obtaining the dragon soul, you won't be able to become the true dragon son of heaven in the end. Instead you will die. I'll leave it to you. Wang Xian's impression of the young master of the celestial race wasn't too bad. His temperament was obviously much better than that of the country bumpkin and the young man who was emitting an evil aura. Therefore he wasn't planning to choose the young master of the celestial race. I can't let them get their hands on him so easily. Otherwise I might get suspicious. Wang Xian stood at the top and pondered in his heart. After making up his mind, a faint smile appeared on his face. The current him was completely using the resurrected god as a chess piece and himself as a chess player to control everything. However, just as Wang Xian arrived at the land of the 9 dragons due to the unusual movement of his dragon soul, more than 10 shadows slowly appeared at the foot of the Hua mountain where he lived. Leading them were 2 old men. They were staring at the top of the mountain peak with a hint of coldness in their eyes. Chapter 1913 1913 Dragon's Wrath 2. According to the information we received, those 2 girls and that young man live on the top floor. Other than that young man, the rest are a group of weaklings. Don't worry. Before lighting the dream divine incense, everyone be careful. Don't be discovered. If this matter isn't handled properly, we'll all die. On the mountain peak where Mount Hua's Dragon Gate Academy lived, an old man reminded the dozen or so people around him in a low voice. Yes. The group of people nodded solemnly. If they couldn't complete the order given by their divine son this time, they would all be doomed. Activate the concealment array. Let's go. The other old man said. The 3 figures at the outermost area each held an array stone plate in their hands and moved slightly. The array was activated and the dozen or so figures quickly disappeared. In less than 10 seconds, a wisp of white smoke rose from the top of the mountain. The smoke only appeared for a moment before drifting towards the top of the mountain. When it came to the side of the mountain, the white smoke had already disappeared. Everything returned to calm once again. At the same time, in the room at the top of the mountain, Hua was lying on the side sleeping soundly. Kair, who was at the side, widened her eyes and looked at the ceiling above. Buzz buzz. At this moment, the 2 star grass on top of their heads trembled. Ha! Kair was slightly stunned. A cold expression appeared on her small face as she looked outside. Sister, wake up. She patted Hua beside her, her eyes shining. What's wrong, sister? Hua opened her eyes in confusion and looked at her sister in confusion. Wung wung. At this moment, the star grass on their heads trembled again. A faint fragrance entered their nostrils. Someone is poisoning us. Kair's expression immediately turned cold when she smelled the fragrance. What? Hua sat up and waved her hand. She put on her clothes and looked outside. It's the dream god incense. It can make people fall into a dream. Even a god realm expert would fall into a deep sleep. Kair's little face changed slightly as she said this. Her eyes revealed a cold expression. Dream god incense. Hua was stunned once again. At this moment, images suddenly appeared in their minds. The dream god incense could cause experts below the godly state to fall into a dream. Even if they were attacked, they would not wake up. This was the power of the dream god incense. However, the powerful ability of the dream god incense landed on Hua and Kair's bodies, causing deep memories to appear in their minds. The dream god incense, on the other hand, accelerated the awakening of their memories. The dream god incense can make anyone below the god realm dream within a second. Let's go. In the air beside the mountain peak, the old man's voice sounded out of thin air. Following that, figures appeared one after another as they walked towards the rooms at the top of the mountain peak. Go and search the rooms above. The main ones are those 2 girls. If you see that young man, take his head. The old man in the middle said as he directly entered a room. Oh. When he entered the room, he saw that there were 2 Hua and Kair with their eyes closed. His face lit up with joy. Ichimps, you 2 girls made the divine son so angry. What a pity. The old man looked at the delicate and cute Hua. He snorted lightly and directly walked toward them. Pa. Who are you? However, at this moment the door of a room beside them suddenly opened. Yao Nu was holding a trance that was emitting light in her hand. She looked coldly at the old man who had suddenly appeared and shouted sternly. "Ah, what's going on? She isn't sleeping?" The old man was slightly stunned when he saw Yao Nu. "What did you do to the two little princesses? Go to hell." When Yao Nu saw Huar, who had her eyes closed and was motionless, killing intent appeared in her eyes. "Damn it, there's still one who isn't unconscious. You're unlucky." When the old man saw Yao Nu, he waved his hand and his domain enveloped the room. Buzz. In an instant, a large earthy yellow palm appeared around Yao Nu. "Not good, Dragon King, save me." Yao Nu felt the earthy yellow palm surrounding her and knew that she had encountered a top-notch expert. She cried out for help in horror. However, his voice didn't penetrate the old man's domain. If Wang Xian was still nearby, he would definitely sense it. Unfortunately, he happened to leave tonight and was 100 kilometers away. Die. The old man waved his proven arm and the earthy yellow palm clawed. A powerful force landed on Yao Nu's body, causing her to spit out blood and pass out instantly. "Aunt?" The old man casually waved his hand, wanting to completely destroy her. "Wang?" At this moment, the god-striking branch in Yao Nu's hand suddenly released a jade-green light that enveloped Yao Nu. The powerful force landed on it without causing the slightest ripple. What is this?" The old man was slightly startled and hurriedly looked at the god-striking branch in Yao Nu's hand. Whoosh, whoosh. Before the old man could go and take a look, a piercing sound was heard. The old man's body paused and his pupils slightly enlarged. He stiffly raised his palm and placed it between his brows. A drop of blood appeared in his line of sight. Bang! His body directly fell to the ground. "Second brother, do you see the figures of those two little girls?" At this moment, a weak voice came from outside, followed by more than 10 figures entering the room. "Second brother." When the other elder saw his companion lying on the ground, his expression changed drastically as he shouted loudly. "Elder Jean." The expressions of the more than 10 figures behind him changed slightly as they scanned their surroundings vigilantly. Whoosh! At this moment, another weak voice sounded and everyone in the room froze. They trembled and looked at each other in shock. Bang bang bang. More than 10 corpses fell down. With the protection of the star grass, it was impossible for anyone under the god realm to harm them. With the death of everyone, the entire room fell into silence again. Yao Nu lay quietly on the ground, being hit by the god protector. Huar and Kair fell into a dream, and their memories began to quickly awaken. Time slowly passed and the sun rose. The entire mountain peak became lively. Xiao Ran, should we call Huar, Kair and teacher over? On the mountain peak, Xiao Ran, Ji Lingfei, and the others were preparing to bring their students to participate in the competition. Ji Lingfei saw that Huar, Kair, and the others had not come down yet, so she asked him. "There's no need. Master will bring them over later. That girl Huar likes to sleep late." Xiao Ran smiled and shook his head. He then led the rest of the students to the competition grounds of the 5 great academies. I actually have a father. I was actually seen naked by a man. No. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the room at the top of the mountain. The flower stood on the bed and kept jumping up and down and shouting with some madness. Chapter 1914. 1914 Dragon Fury 3, 1914. Sob, sister, what should we do? We have an extra father. But this father seems to be even younger than us. To think that I, Lin Yuan, have an extra father younger than me. He even saw me naked. That stinky fellow even gave me the name of Wang Huar. Does it have to be so ugly? Does it have to be? The crazed voice continued to ring out. Huar's little face was flushed red and filled with shame and anger as she kept calling out. Kair, who was at the side, looked at her younger sister who had completely regained her memories and smiled bitterly. That fellow was indeed a little too much. Giving them both a name like Wang Huar and Wang Kair, it was extremely ugly. How will you face him in the future? Kair looked at her sister and said with a smile. I don't know either. I can't call a little guy who is thousands of years younger than me as father, can I? If we add in the hundreds of thousands of years that we have fallen, it makes him look even younger. But he did raise us up to such a big age. And he is so good to us. Wah wah wah, what should we do, sister? We were young girls back then. He actually saw all of us naked and even kissed us all day long. Hua kept shouting in the room. At first it was fine, but the more she listened, the darker Kai's face became. What did he mean by seeing all of us naked? Back then you even peed on his neck. Kai said directly to Hua with slight anger. You. Hearing her sister's words, Hua's face immediately turned red, and even her neck turned red. She pointed at Kai and pouted. Lin Yuro, I'm warning you, don't say anything about this in the future. Okay. Kai smiled and frowned. What should we do now? I don't know either. Hua's face fell, and she looked like she had nothing to live for. Why don't we continue to pretend? We have already called him daddy, so what if we continue to call him daddy? Suddenly Hua raised her eyebrows and said. Then do you want to keep calling him daddy from now on? Kai glared at her and said. That guy is also quite good to us. We cannot call him little brother when we are together. Hua pouted and said with a sad face. Sigh, little sister, your divine kingdom has completely fallen. My divine kingdom can still sense it a little. Why don't we wait until our bodies have grown a little before we talk about it? Wait until we recover to the divine realm, then we'll consider the matter with that guy. Kai hesitated for a moment and said. Hua was stunned for a moment. Then she looked at her small body, obviously very dissatisfied. Well, that's the only way. I'll look for him again in the future. She said to Kai. These people. Kai turned around and looked at the corpses on the ground. Her eyes flickered with a cold luster. A bunch of scoundrels. They still want to kill us. It should be that divine son from the pyramid yesterday. HMPH, what bullshit divine son. When we recover our strength, we'll kill them all and send them to hell. Hua snorted coldly with a fierce look in her eyes. Kai waved her arm and all the corpses on the ground disappeared. She looked at Yao Nu, who had fallen to the side and was being protected by the God Slayer. Sister, Yao Nu is injured, but it shouldn't be a big problem. Sister, you said it was really strange. When the God Slayer's branch father gave it to us, it was already on the verge of withering. There was only a trace of energy left. That stinky fellow, how did he restore the God-beating branch's vitality? Hua looked at the God-beating branch in Yao Er's hand and frowned slightly. He's very strong and very mysterious. Kai Yar's eyes flashed with a luster. Back then, the God-beating branch was on the verge of withering, but their father still solemnly gave it to them to protect themselves, saying that it would save their lives in the future. This time they were able to revive again, all thanks to the God-slaying branch. However, after the God-slaying branch retained a drop of their blood, it also completely withered. Now that it could recover again, they were extremely surprised. Sister Yao is protected by the God-slaying branch. We can't touch her. Let her lie here, let's go. Kai continued speaking to Hua. Okay, let's go. Hua nodded. Right, should we tell him? Tell him what? Oh, could it be that our memories have awakened? You're just a little brother. We'll come find you after cultivating for a while? Let's go. As Hua and Kai spoke, they moved and disappeared. They flew towards the divine kingdom that had not been completely damaged. Damn it, why is this dragon soul so hard to capture? At that moment, in the land of the 9 dragons, 100 kilometers away from Mount Hua, below a city, the Earth grandson held the dragon-seeking array in his hand as he walked underground with an embarrassed expression. Looking at the dragon soul that disappeared in an instant, his expression changed drastically. Wang? At this moment he felt the place behind him shake, causing his expression to change drastically. Who? Fuck, there's actually someone following behind me. The Earth grandson immediately looked around warily, his eyes filled with wariness. That evil youth is indeed extraordinary, to be able to follow behind the Earth grandson. It's about time. Congratulations, true dragon son of heaven. I won't play with you guys anymore. Hua and Kai are getting up now. Tens of thousands of meters above the ground, Wang Xian's face was filled with a strange smile. He looked at the time and arrived in the sky above Mount Hua in a flash. Hua, Kai, wake up. It's time to bask in the sun. Wang Xian arrived at the peak of the mountain and saw that Xiao Ran and the rest had already left. He walked towards the room of the 2 girls. However, when he entered the mountain peak, he sensed something strange around him. What's that smell? He sniffed with his nose and frowned immediately. His dragon eyes of the yin-yang and 5 elements swept across the surroundings. When he saw that there was no sign of Hua and Kai'er in the room, his expression changed slightly when he saw Yao Nu lying on the ground inside. Bang! Wang Xian immediately opened the door and walked into the room. He looked at everything in the room with a gloomy face and walked to Yao Nu's side. He waved his arm and regained his focus. A surge of energy landed on Yao Nu's body. Yao Nu opened her eyes slowly. When she realized that she was not dead, she heaved a sigh of relief. Dragon King. When she saw Wang Xian, she was slightly shocked. She recalled the scene from yesterday. Dragon King, someone barged in to deal with the 2 little princesses last night. The 2 little princesses, they... As Yao Nu spoke, she immediately surveyed her surroundings and searched for Hua and Kai'er's figure. Her face was filled with anxiety. Someone is here to deal with Hua and Kai'er? Wang Xian's face darkened. A terrifying killing intent flashed in his eyes. Who is it? He asked with a terrifying aura. Dragon King Yao Nu is guilty. I saw an old man talking about the divine sun. I remember now. That old man seems to be the person beside the 9th divine son of the gate yesterday. Yao Nu knelt down and said with a pale face. When she recalled the old man's face, which was the same as the one she saw on Shintai Peak, she immediately said in fear. Chapter 1915. 1915 Dragon's Wrath 4. The people beside the 9 divine sons. When Wang Xian heard Yao Nu's words, a cold glint flashed in his eyes. They are courting death. Wang Xian growled in a low voice. His violent aura caused Yao Nu to tremble. This was the first time she felt the Dragon King's fury. If this violent aura attacked her directly, she had a premonition that she would die under the pressure. At the thought of this, she felt even more terrified. After all, she had failed to protect the 2 little princesses. Phew! Wang Xian took a deep breath. His eyes were cold as he scanned his surroundings, looking for any clues. The son of God, the son of the god of the pyramid. If anything happens to Hua and Kai'er, I will make your pyramid your graveyard. Wang Xian mumbled as he looked towards the center of Mount Hua. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Get up. He glanced at Yao Nui indifferently. This matter was not something that she could stop. With Yao Nui's current strength, she was not as powerful as the 2 little girls. Dragon King, the 2 little princesses. Yao Nui said with bloodshot eyes. Whoever dares to hurt them, I will bury them with them. Wang Xian said coldly. His figure moved and appeared in the sky above the mountain peak. You'd better pray that nothing will happen to the 2 little girls. He looked at the center of Mount Hua. That was the first day of the competition of the 5 great academies. The competition was also held at the summit of Mount Hua. His figure moved and appeared directly above the competition venue. The battle between the 5 great academies' chief academies, the summit of Mount Hua. It was located at the summit of Mount Hua. After undergoing the transformation of the array formation, it was the size of a football field. There were viewing platforms in the surroundings. At this moment, the viewing platforms were already filled with tens of thousands of people. Among these tens of thousands of people, there were students from the 5 great academies, there were people from the Protoss race, and there were even some who had come specially to watch. Around the central arena, there were dozens of cameras set up in all directions, broadcasting the competition live. Dozens of television stations were broadcasting the competition live. The competition between the top academies in the world was still related to the ranking of the academies. Naturally, it attracted the attention of the entire world. Almost 1/3 of the people in the world were watching the competition. The 5 academies were located in the 5 most eye-catching locations. Wang Xian hovered in the sky and looked coldly at the son of deity of Gate 9 who was standing in front of the stage of Gate 9 Academy. If it was an ordinary force or someone else, Wang Xian believed that Hua or Kai'er, who had the protection of the stellar grass, would not have any problems. However, the other party was a son of deity, the son of a god. He could not guarantee that the other party would have any special items that could deal with spiritual items such as the stellar grass. Now that Hua and Kai'er had disappeared, it was definitely related to him. HMPitch, a bunch of ignorant people on the internet actually dare to say that our 9 Gates Academy is the worst academy. Today I'll let you see the strength and dignity of the 9 Gates Academy. Kiki Dragon Gate Academy, Fire God Academy, your students aren't doing well. Send out your strongest students. At this moment at the peak of Mount Hua, Divine Sun Menjiu stood in front of his seat and coldly swept his gaze over everyone around him. His gaze was fixed on a youth wearing the uniform of the Nine Gates Academy in the middle of the arena. His eyes flickered with a cold luster. Sweeping his gaze over the Nine Gates Academy's position, when he didn't see the two little girls appear, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. At the same time he was also incomparably astonished. Last night, he had sent out his strongest subordinate to kidnap the two little girls from yesterday. In the end he didn't see them even after a night. This caused him to have a slight bad premonition. This bunch of damnable fellows. However, regardless of whether they succeed or not, it's fine as long as the two little girls from the Dragon Gate Academy don't appear. He snorted coldly in his heart. As for the life and death of his subordinates, he was no longer interested. As for whether the matter of him sending people to kidnap those two little girls would be exposed, he didn't care at all. His mother was a god of the pyramid. Even if it was the god of the Lingxiao treasured palace, they wouldn't dare to touch him easily. What he wanted was the #1 spot in this year's Academy Grand Competition. He wanted the Gate 9 Academy to become the leader of all the academies. Just now, when their Gate 9 Academy appeared, he heard all kinds of jeers and jeers from the surrounding spectator stands, making his expression extremely awkward. He had directly sent out his final trump card in the first match, a disciple of the 8th rank of the Profound Void tier. As for how this disciple of the 8th rank of the Profound Void tier had been promoted, only the higher-ups of his academy knew. That disciple of the Gate 9 Academy is so strong. They actually sent out such a powerful disciple in the first match, and even heavily injured the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy and the Divine Fire Academy, almost killing him. Didn't they say that the Dragon Gate Academy could easily crush the Gate 9 Academy? How can the students they sent out be so strong? They can almost rival some heaven's favorites. You can't believe what's on the internet. That school from the Gate 9 Academy is so strong. As expected of the Son of God, the school founded by the Son of God. In the surrounding audience stands, everyone looked at the students from the Gate 9 Academy in the center of the arena in shock. Yesterday, there was a video on the internet that caused the reputation of the Nine Gates Academy to be greatly damaged. However, today the first match had just ended, and the Nine Gates Academy had already displayed a terrifying crushing power. This caused everyone to be incomparably shocked. The strength of an 8th-level Profound Void martial artist. In the positions of the Dragon Gate Academy, the Fire God Academy, and the other two academies, the higher-ups of the several great academies frowned. Wow, the first match of today's grand competition of the 5 great academies has exceeded everyone's expectations. The Gate 9 Academy has displayed almost invincible strength. The students of the Gate 9 Academy instantly killed the students of the other great academies. This is completely different from the ones on the internet. Everyone continue to lock onto this channel. The next match will be even more exciting. The television stations were broadcasting. At the same time, the entire internet was carrying out a live broadcast. At this moment, the number of viewers had reached more than 1 billion. Seeing the first round of the competition end in less than a minute, everyone was shocked. I told you. How can the academy created by the descendants of the gods be weak? The Nine Gates Academy is really powerful. Look at the presidents of the other academies. Their expressions are all ugly. With the resources and background of the Nine Gates Divine Sun, I reckon that the Nine Gates Academy will become the leader of all the academies. Before the live broadcast, some people were watching the situation of the competition and discussing it in low voices. It was like this on the internet. If one was strong, there would be people praising them. If one was weak, then there would be 10,000 people who would lose. The Gate 9 Divine Sun, Huar and Kair, where are they now? Just as everyone was shocked by the Gate 9 Academy's powerful strength, and just as the Gate 9 Divine Sun was proudly standing in front of his seat, a figure suddenly appeared in the middle of the peak of Mount Hua. Everyone was slightly startled. Under the shock of some cameramen, the camera focused on the figure that had suddenly appeared. The eyes of millions, the eyes of the world. Chapter 1916. 1916 and 1916, the Dragon King appeared out of nowhere. What's going on? Who's that young man? What's going on? Why is there a young man here all of a sudden? If you CK, why is there a young man suddenly appearing in the competition of the 5 major colleges? What's he doing here? The young man who suddenly appeared in the sky above the arena and stared at the ninth divine son of the sect made everyone slightly stunned. When the group of cameramen from the television station and the staff of the live webcast saw this scene, they immediately aimed at the figure in the sky. On the entire peak of Mount Hua, everyone was focused on the figure who had suddenly appeared. Master. When Xiao Ran saw Wang Xian suddenly appearing and floating in the sky above the arena, his expression changed slightly. He stood up immediately. What's going on? Why is teacher questioning where the ninth son of God, Huar and Kair are? Ji Lingfei's expression also changed slightly as she stood up and looked at the figure in the sky. The students of Dragon Gate Academy were also looking at him in astonishment. Who is that? More people were looking at the figure who had suddenly appeared in puzzlement. Shensi Minjio was standing there when he suddenly saw a young man questioning him. He was slightly stunned. When he saw the face of the young man from yesterday, he raised his eyebrows slightly. How do I know where the flowers and plants are? Why are you looking for someone to ask me? Shensi Minjio said to Wang Xian with slight disdain. Upon hearing the mysterious young man's question, he was rather happy. Although his incompetent subordinates had not returned yet, he could guarantee that the two girls had indeed been taken away by his subordinates. He just didn't know what had happened to them. Also, as Shensi Minjio spoke, he narrowed his eyes slightly. This is the competition of our academy. All useless people get lost immediately. Scram immediately. Don't disturb the competition of our academy. Just as the divine son of the ninth gate finished his words, the dean of the Fire God Academy, the dean of the Sky Palm Academy, and the dean of the Spirit Peak Academy stood up as well. They shouted at Wang Xian with slight impatience. They were already in a bad mood when they saw the strength of the disciples of the Ninth Gate Academy. Now that they saw someone disrupting their academy's competition, they immediately shouted, "You don't know? If they lose even a hair, I will destroy the entire faction of your pyramid." When Wang Xian heard his words, a hint of killing intent appeared on his expressionless face. As for the other higher-ups of the academy, he didn't take them seriously. As he spoke, he slowly extended his palm. A gray palm appeared and grabbed toward the son of deity Menjiu. How dare you attack me? You're courting death. When the son of deity Menjiu saw that Wang Xian was attacking him, his face instantly revealed a furious expression. You haven't ignited the divine fire yet, and you still dare to attack me? You even want to destroy our pyramid. Ah! He roared and moved his palm. A pyramid formed from earth attribute appeared and attacked the gray arm. Fuck! Who is that young man? How dare he attack the ninth divine son of the gate? He is the son of a god. He is courting death. What arrogance! He actually wants to destroy the pyramid faction? Who is he? Is he an expert from the Lingxiao treasured palace? He didn't ignite the divine fire? How dare he make an enemy out of the sect's ninth son of deity? He must be courting death. When everyone around heard Wang Xian's words and saw this scene, they were shocked. A young man actually dared to attack the sect's ninth son of deity. The tens of thousands of people around were dumbfounded. FUCK 6666, it seems like this guy is going to die. Which ruthless person from the loony bin dares to attack the son of God, the son of the god? Is he courting death? Such a thing actually happened in the 5 Great Academies competition, haha. On the live webcast and television, everyone watching was also dumbfounded. Bullet screens quickly filled the screen. Towards a person who dared to attack the son of the god, they were both shocked and full of ridicule. A god's son could be attacked by just anyone. If you didn't have a god as your backer, you were simply courting death. Why does this young man's figure feel somewhat familiar? However, some middle-aged and elderly people looked at the figure on the screen and felt that it was somewhat familiar. At this moment, a loud sound came from the peak of Mount Hua. The grayish palm landed on the golden pyramid that Shensi Menjiu had released. The pyramid formed by the earth attribute instantly collapsed and disappeared. It was as if the 1,000-meter-long pyramid did not appear. The palm continued to attack Shensi Menjiu. What? He is indeed very strong. Shensi Menjiu's expression changed slightly. He knew that he was definitely not a match for this young man. Furthermore, his 2 subordinates were nowhere to be seen. He could not withstand Wang Xian at all. When he saw this scene, he stopped and stared at Wang Xian coldly. There was no fear on his face. Let me tell you, I don't care who you are. If you dare to hurt me, my mother will execute your entire family. Faced with the palm that was attacking him, the ninth divine son raised his head, his face filled with arrogance. So what if he wasn't his match? He dared to harm me? Everyone around saw the ninth divine son's arrogant expression, and their hearts were filled with admiration. This young man who had suddenly appeared was so powerful that it was beyond everyone's expectations, but the ninth divine son wasn't afraid at all. Just as he had said, if he dared to touch even a hair on his head, he would have to wait for the wrath of the gods. Peng. However, at this moment, the dusky palm landed on Shen Zimen's body. His entire body trembled. Everything below his head instantly dissipated. The dusky palm held onto his head, protecting his life force. A demigod-level expert wouldn't die in such a situation. At this moment, Shen Zimen was stunned. His face still carried the arrogance and disdain from before. However, at this moment, the shock slowly turned into shock. His head slowly looked down, his eyes filled with shock. You actually dared to scatter my body. I want you to die, I want you to die. His face trembled violently as he roared with incomparable ferocity. This. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Looking at the one-headed Shen Zimen, everyone widened their eyes in shock. He actually dared to destroy Shen Zimen's body directly. If you don't say it, I'll look at it myself. Wang Xian looked at his head and moved his palm. His grayish palm grabbed his head directly. No, mother, save me. Kill him, kill him. At this moment, his eyes widened and an earthy yellow radiance bloomed from his glabella. The grayish palm paused slightly and a human figure condensed in front of the Son of God. Jior. A graceful and elegant lady dressed in an elegant dress with a crown on her head appeared in the sky. An extremely powerful aura filled the entire peak of Mount Hua. When she saw her son, her expression changed slightly. She stared at Wang Xian with killing intent and dignity. Who are you? How dare you hurt my son? She stared at Wang Xian. The sky slowly turned yellowish and the color of the world began to change. Oh my God, that's the god of the pyramid. Oh my God, how terrifying. That young man is doomed. He actually provoked the god. That's not right. That's just a shadow of the god. It's a shadow that the ninth son of deity gave him to protect himself. His real body hasn't arrived yet. When everyone around saw the changes in the world and the arrival of the god of the pyramid, their expressions changed drastically. My name is Wang Xian. You can call me the Dragon King. Wang Xian replied word by word when he saw the apparition of the god gathered in front of the son of Pantheon. Chapter 1917. 1917 In 1917, the Dragon King fell from the heavens. My name is Wang Xian. You can call me Dragon King. When Wang Xian uttered these words with a calm expression, everyone was stunned. Wang Xian. Dragon King? Who was it? Most of the people's minds were filled with these words. You hurt the son of Yamen. Regardless of whether you are the Dragon King or the Insect King, you will die today. A mortal who has not even ignited the divine fire. How dare you offend the Son of God? Your crime is unforgivable. When the god of Yamen in the pyramid heard Wang Xian's words, her dignified gaze was filled with judgment. She waved her hand and a sword of judgment immediately condensed in the sky above Mount Hua, which was completely covered by the earth elemental energy. The earthy yellow sword of judgment directly pierced toward Wang Xian. Your son dared to order people to attack Huay'er Kair. I will make you pay the price and let you know who I am, Dragon King. Wang Xian looked at the sword of judgment that was attacking him from the sky and waved his arm. Boom. A muffled sound was heard and the sharp sword dissipated instantly. This piece of sky is just a clone. Do you still want to cover it? Wang Xian looked at the earthy yellow energy that covered the entire sky above Mount Hua. A hint of coldness appeared on his face. With a wave of his arm, the entire sky shook. An incomparably huge palm tore open and the earthy yellow energy disappeared completely. That young man has such terrifying strength. I remember now. Dragon King, it's the Dragon King. The Dragon King from more than 10 years ago, it's him. It's exactly the same as more than 10 years ago. The Dragon King has actually returned. At this moment, when everyone saw Wang Xian breaking the judgment sword of Yamen's divine clone with one hand and tearing apart the earth elemental energy in the sky, some middle-aged elders suddenly thought of the name from more than 10 years ago. Dragon King. More than 10 years had passed. Many people were already unfamiliar with this name. However, when they thought of this name, waves of memories surged into their minds. How is this possible? It's really the Dragon King. He's not dead. He's still alive. He's still alive. The Dragon King from more than 10 years ago is still alive. An old man roared crazily in shock. As he roared, more and more people started to call out this name. Hua hua hua. One by one, the middle-aged old men could not help but stand up, staring at the expressionless young man in the air. What's going on? Is the Dragon King very famous? When at least half of the audience stood up, the youths were slightly dumbfounded and stunned. Since when did such a person exist on Earth? May I ask, who is the Dragon King? How come I've never heard of him? Same question, who is the Dragon King? From the reactions of many people on the summit of Mount Hua, it seems that the Dragon King is very powerful, but how come I've never heard of him? However, he can defeat the attack of the divine clone, so he shouldn't be weak either. So what if he is not weak? The god of the pyramid said that he is just a person who has not ignited the divine fire. This person is definitely a pill that dares to fight against the gods. He is seeking his own death. What do you bunch of little brats know? This is the Dragon King, the once invincible Dragon King. The Dragon King who suppressed an entire generation. I did not expect that the Dragon King is still alive. Oh my god. At this moment, on the internet and on the radio, more than 1 billion people were watching the Academy competition. The sudden accident surprised many people, but at the same time, it also filled them with interest. When everyone saw the young man who called himself the Dragon King defeat the avatar of God, everyone was slightly shocked. They were filled with curiosity about the name of the Dragon King. However, very quickly, there were many bullet comments about the Dragon King on the live broadcast. This caused the faces of all the young people to be filled with astonishment. When they saw the words, suppress an era, invincible Dragon King, they were also slightly surprised. What suppress an era, what invincible Dragon King? Today he provoked a god. He's dead. That's right. He provoked our pyramid's Yamen god and injured our sect's 9 divine sons. This so-called Dragon King must be judged. However, although there were many people who were bombarded with bullet messages saying that the Dragon King was invincible, the disciples of the pyramid faction, as well as those disciples who had descended with the gods, scoffed. What Dragon King? Now that he had angered a god, the consequences could already be imagined. Faced with the ridicule and disdain of the young generation and the disciples of the four forces, the middle-aged elders on Earth had a slightly complicated expression on their faces. They didn't expect that the Dragon King was still alive, but this was the era of the gods. Just now, the pyramid god said that the Dragon King hadn't lit the divine fire yet, so would the once invincible Dragon King be a match for the gods? They did not dare to guarantee because this was no longer the era of the Dragon King. This caused a complicated expression to appear on their faces, and their eyes were fixed on the live stream. Master. Xiao Ran watched from the side and a worried expression appeared on her face. Don't worry, Xiao Ran. Your master is stronger than you think. Ji Lingfei's eyes were shining. Xiao Ran's master back then had given her a great shock. Afterwards, she had looked up some information about the Dragon King, and the results had caused her to be slightly shocked. He had never thought that a young man from Earth would be able to reach such a level. Suppressing an era, suppressing the entire Earth. Oh, you, a mortal who didn't ignite the divine fire, actually have such strength? Yamen's divine clone looked in astonishment at the Earth-type energy that had completely dissipated in the sky, and his eyes sparkled. Mother, kill him, kill him. At this moment, the head of the son of deity Minjiu, who was at the side, roared with a ferocious expression. Jior, don't worry. Mother will help you kill him. The avatar of Yamen God looked at his son. His face was filled with heartache again. Immortal. An ant dares to offend the son of deity. The avatar of Yamen God shouted in a low voice. With a wave of his arm, the earth elemental energy condensed into a shroud and attacked Wang Xian once again. Bus. Wang Xian stretched out his claw and grabbed at the void in front of him. The grayish dragon claw condensed directly and penetrated the shroud formed by the earth attribute in an instant. What? Seeing that his attack was easily destroyed again, the expression of the Yamen deity's avatar finally changed drastically. Today even God can't protect you. Wang Xian stared at the 9th son of deity and said coldly. Boom. The dragon claw arrived in front of the avatar of Yamen and penetrated her body directly under her astonished gaze. It was too fast. If you dare to kill my son, I, Yamen, will definitely chase you to the ends of the earth and kill all your family and friends. As her identity dissipated, a stern shout came out from Yamen's mouth. Wang Xian's expression turned cold when he heard her voice. He waved his arm and the head of Manjiu continued to fly towards him. No, no, don't you dare touch me. Don't you dare. Manjiu roared in horror as he watched himself fly towards the Dragon King. Chapter 1918. 1918 and 1918, the Dragon King fell from heaven and earth. Buzz. In the sky above the peak of Mount Hua, the divine son of Manjiu screamed miserably. The avatar of the Yamen god was defeated. Everyone was extremely shocked. Everyone, including those who were watching the live broadcast on the television network, watched this scene in shock. Wang Xian waved his hand and grabbed the head of the divine son of Manjiu. He looked at him coldly. Let me go. If you dare to kill me, my mother will not let you off. Looking at Wang Xian's cold and indifferent gaze up close, the divine son of Manjiu's face was filled with shock and fear. Furthermore, he was still shouting at Wang Xian sternly. He was the son of God. He did not believe that the so-called Dragon King in front of him would dare to kill him. This Dragon King has such terrifying strength. Even if it is a clone of the god, it should at least have the strength of a level 9 demigod. This Dragon King can actually destroy him so easily. This Dragon King's strength should have already reached the peak of the demigod realm. He's simply too strong. In the audience stands around the arena on the peak of Mount Hua, everyone looked at this scene with faces full of shock as they muttered. This Dragon King is so fierce. He's at least at the peak of the demigod realm. He's a peerless expert. Do you think this Dragon King dares to kill the 9th divine son? I don't think he dares. Once he kills him, he'll have a complete falling out with a god. All kinds of bullet messages appeared on the live streaming platform on the internet. At this moment, more than 1 billion people were watching. Everyone was shocked. Some people watched as the Dragon King held the 9th divine son's head and discussed among themselves. Many people thought that the Dragon King wouldn't dare to kill the 9th divine son. After all, he was the son of a god. Killing him was equivalent to making an enemy of a god. Who could withstand the anger of a god? That 9th divine son is going to die. With the Dragon King's character, he is almost 100% sure that the 9th divine son will be killed. However, many middle-aged elders had already sentenced the 9th divine son to death in their hearts when they saw this scene. The former Dragon King had no taboos even before he rose to power. Anyone who provoked him would not have a good ending. The situation today was obviously caused by the 9th divine son of the sect secretly dealing with the Dragon King's family, which had thoroughly angered him. They still remembered that back then, because someone had hurt the Dragon King's family, half of the entire Jianghu had been massacred. How terrifying was this? The 9th divine son of the sect is going to die? That's impossible, right? I think that Dragon King is going to die in the future. Some of the younger generation commented when they saw these comments. Even your mother can't save your life. In the middle of the arena, Wang Xian had a look of disdain on his face when he heard the 9th son of deity's threat. There was a strange glint in his eyes. Soul capture. Wang Xian shouted softly. What are you doing? The 9th son of deity had a bad feeling when he saw Wang Xian's strange pupils. He shouted loudly. But after he finished speaking, he stopped abruptly. His face was filled with shock. Wang Xian slowly closed his eyes and read the memories of the son of deity Manjiu. Damn it. When Wang Xian opened his eyes again, his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. He could see everything that the son of deity Manjiu had done clearly. This made him feel a wave of violence in his heart. Hua Er Kair's disappearance was indeed related to him. As for whether they were safe or not, even he didn't know. All of you deserve to die. Wang Xian waved his furious palm and the head of the son of deity disappeared into thin air. At the same time, he waved his palm once again towards the entrance of the school. A gray river appeared and swept towards all the students of the school. What? He actually killed the son of deity? Not good, not good. He actually attacked us. At this moment, when all the students of the Men's 9 Academy saw their principal's head being destroyed, they were all shocked. However, when the gray energy of destruction attacked them, All the students of the Men's 9 Academy revealed fear on their faces. Some of them hurriedly fled into the distance. However, how could they possibly dodge Wang Xian's attack? Ah, no, no, no. The grayish, invisible, destructive energy swept past them and they disappeared instantly. They turned into dust and didn't even leave behind a corpse. The short and rapid screams only lasted for a few seconds before they disappeared completely. The Gate 9 Academy's position seemed to have been erased by this world, leaving no trace behind. Hiss. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their faces filled with shock. This. Everyone around the peak of Mount Hua watched this scene in shock. They stared blankly at the Dragon King in the middle, and couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. As expected. Some of the middle-aged elders in front of the live broadcast did not have any expression on their faces when they saw this scene. This was the Dragon King in their hearts. Dragon King, I'm going to exterminate your 9 clans. At this moment, in the pyramid that was located more than 10,000 kilometers away, Yamen had already flown out of the pyramid when his clone was broken and teleported towards Mount Hua. However, before he could teleport, he sensed that his son's aura had completely disappeared. This caused her body to freeze, and a furious and savage expression appeared on her face. A furious roar resounded throughout the entire planet. Everyone in the world could hear it clearly. Wang. Her figure moved, carrying a terrifying murderous aura as she teleported towards Mount Hua. Under her feet, the pyramid of the Divine Kingdom slowly formed. The god was completely enraged, causing the entire world to tremble. An earthen yellow mark streaked across the sky over 10,000 kilometers. When everyone saw this scene, they all raised their heads and were dumbstruck. The true body of the Yamen god is here. This god is completely enraged. That Dragon King acted in a somewhat arrogant manner. He killed the son of the god and even directly wiped out the 9 Gates Academy. This is too cruel. The god has made a move. That Dragon King is completely finished. The entire world could sense the anger of the god of the pyramid. Whether it was on the live broadcast platform or in the audience stands at the peak of Mount Hua, everyone stood there in a daze. Gate 9 Academy, one of the 3 academies, was directly wiped out by the Dragon King. This was one of the top 20 powers in the world. The descendants of the gods were destroyed. The name of the Dragon King was remembered by everyone in the world once again. Killing all of you isn't enough to vent my anger. Yamen? He's just a god who ignited a wisp of divine fire. Wang Xian raised his head slowly and looked towards the west. His eyes were still filled with anger and killing intent. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky in the west, a series of explosions could be heard. The god of Yamen is here. The god of the pyramid is here. The sky in the west was like a sandstorm that blotted out the sun. It covered an area of more than 100 kilometers. In the middle of the sandstorm, a god that was filled with killing intent was standing on the pyramid. Chapter 1919. 1919 on the Godslayer. A world of yellow sand was formed. An incomparably huge pyramid stood in the center of this world. The pyramid was 10,000 meters tall and emitted an earthen yellow divine light. In the sky above the pyramid, a woman emitting divine light stood at the top. She had a fiery figure and held a cloth in her hand. This was the weapon of the pyramid gods, the shroud. At this moment, the Yamen god's body was filled with rage and killing intent. Behind him, the yellow sand condensed into 3 tornadoes, emitting a terrifying pressure. This was the power of a god. This scene shocked everyone. Even the gods of the Lingshao treasured palace and the other factions noticed the commotion. The gods looked over, their eyes filled with shock. How terrifying. When will I be able to become a god? If I don't become a god, I will still be an ant. In front of a god, we are as weak as ants. Everyone looked at the Yamen god who had brought an entire world with him. Their faces were filled with awe. You actually dared to kill my son. How would a mortal like you dare? I will suppress you in the pyramid. I will refine you and your family into mummies. The god of Yamen stared at Wang Xian from afar and roared sternly. As she roared, the yellow sand around her could feel her anger boiling like boiling water. Clumps of yellow sand began to condense. A human-shaped monster formed and pounced towards Wang Xian. The terrifying aura and the scene that blotted out the sky caused everyone within a 100-kilometer radius to tremble. Oh my god, is this the result of angering a god? This is something that the Dragon King can withstand? This is not something that a human can withstand. At this moment, when God Yaman was suppressing the entire space, the group of middle-aged elders in front of the live broadcast could feel this suffocating and invincible aura even though they were separated by the screen. Their hearts were somewhat shaken. In front of this power, could the Dragon King withstand it? Dragon King, he had yet to become a god. Suppress me? Ah. At this moment, Wang Xian looked at the Yaman god who was trying to judge him from above. A violent expression appeared on his face. Your son has ordered people to harm my people. Even if you don't come looking for me, I will go and kill you. He laughed maniacally. The aura on his body began to rise. An invincible force gathered as he stared coldly at Yaman. Wang Xian opened his mouth slightly and the 5-elemental millstone flew out slowly and enlarged. Roar! The humanoid monster formed from yellow sand let out a violent roar. Bang! 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 The 5-elemental millstone turned into 100 meters in size and crashed into it directly, crushing it. Buzz! After the 5-elemental millstone crushed the humanoid creature formed from yellow sand, it flew to the sky above Wang Xian and enlarged again instantly. The 5 elements millstone, which was 50 kilometers long, covered the entire sky. The entire sky above Mount Hua was completely covered. The entire world instantly turned dark. Buzz! Wang Xian stared at the Yaman god with a cold expression. He waved his hands gently. Roar! 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 The 5 elements divine dragons roared from the top of the 5 elements millstone. The incomparably large 5 elements millstone spun, emitting an aura of destruction as it directly attacked the Yaman god. What? The Yaman god felt the terrifying pressure coming from the 5 elements millstone, and her expression instantly changed. Her face, which was filled with judgment and anger, revealed a grave expression. Golden spear. She shouted angrily and waved her hand. The earthy yellow energy in a 100-kilometer radius instantly condensed into a long spear that was more than 10 kilometers long. The long spear seemed to be able to shoot down the sun in the sky and directly collided with the 5 elements millstone. My god, what's the situation now? The strength of the Dragon King, this. Is he competing with the gods? The Dragon King is a native of Earth, but he can actually compete with the gods of the pyramids. Some people say that the gods are the rulers, and those favored sons of heaven are the main characters. Now, what is the Dragon King? This is fighting against the gods. At this moment, when everyone saw the Dragon King fighting against the gods, everyone on Earth was in an uproar. The Dragon King was a person from Earth, but he actually had the strength to fight against the descending gods. On Earth, were there really people who could fight against the gods? Wang? The sound of the golden spear colliding with the 5 elements millstone rang out. The yellow sand that filled the sky trembled and actually fell down bit by bit. The golden spear began to crumble and the 5 elements millstone continued to press down on Yaman. How is this possible? You're just a mortal. You clearly didn't ignite the divine fire. How can you be so strong? A shocked voice came out from Yaman's mouth. She widened her eyes and stared at the gigantic 5 elements millstone. Especially the 5 divine dragons above the 5 elements millstone. They were emitting energy that made her heart palpitate. Obliteration, river of time. Wang Xian waved his arm and the 5 elements millstone spun. A river appeared out of thin air and flowed towards the western horizon. In the gray river of annihilation, there were many cyan swordfish. This was the weapon in the sharp sword treasure box that Tianfeng's Heaven's Pride had absorbed in the 5 elements millstone. The level of that treasure was close to the godly state. After being absorbed by the 5 elements millstone, it could be released now. The difference was that the sharp swords had transformed into the swordfish in the river of annihilation. Even if she could withstand the river of time, she would probably die in the mouth of the swordfish. When the river of time appeared, everyone below could see a gray river appearing in the sky. The river of time was more than 100 kilometers long and more than 10 kilometers wide, and there were ferocious green swordfish swimming in it. The Dragon King is definitely not a mortal. This kind of attack can only be unleashed by a godly state expert, definitely. Dragon King, who is it? Everyone below was trembling. Regardless of whether it was in terms of power or range, the Dragon King's attack was not inferior to Yaman gods. In fact, from the very beginning, the Dragon King had suppressed Yaman God. The Shroud of God will bury all gods. Yaman's pupils constricted slightly when she saw the long river sweeping towards her. She waved the shroud in her hand and it turned into a khaki-colored cloth that was dozens of kilometers long. The cloth was filled with an aura of death. Crash. When the shroud of God collided with the river of time, it produced a sound like a torrent. A white strip that was dozens of kilometers long was churning in the river that was hundreds of kilometers long. This scene was shocking. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the green swordfish in the river suddenly leaped up and pierced through the god's shroud. Their incomparably sharp swords pierced through the shroud. However, the place where the shroud had been pierced through recovered at a terrifying speed. This was a divine weapon, a true divine weapon. Chapter 1920. 1920 God Slayer. Yaman God, one of the 6 great gods of the pyramid. For a woman to be able to become a god, not only did she possess great talent, but she also had a powerful background. The shroud in her hand was a precious treasure given to her by her fallen husband. A divine artifact. Even the weakest divine artifact was able to fight against a god who had ignited a wisp of divine fire. If a god had a powerful divine artifact, as long as the difference in the divine kingdom wasn't too great, he could even fight against 2 experts of the same level. Divine artifacts possessed intelligence just like the star grass of a flower. A god with a wisp of divine fire could be killed by the star grass if he wasn't careful. While divine artifacts possessed powerful offensive power, they also possessed powerful recovery abilities. It was no different from a real god. Hualala. The shroud stirred the 5 elements millstone and released the river of time, and the power of the destruction of the 5 elements quickly disappeared. That is a divine weapon, the divine weapon of Yaman God. The divine weapon is extremely powerful and has a powerful spiritual intelligence. Not everyone can get it. A god, other than a powerful divine kingdom, has a divine weapon as his strongest trump card. With a divine weapon, he can easily defeat experts of the same realm. At this moment, in the audience stands below the peak of Mount Hua, and in front of the live broadcast, everyone looked at the vast shroud and the river of time with shock on their faces. They almost knelt down to watch the battle. With a casual strike, the shroud covered an area of a kilometer. If the 2 of them hadn't flown tens of thousands of meters into the sky, perhaps the entire Mount Hua would have been turned into ashes. At the same time, the power of the shroud made everyone look surprised. Yaman's realm is not high, but she has a divine weapon. In the divine realm of a wisp of divine fire, she can be considered a powerhouse. At this moment, the battle of the divine realm attracted the attention of all the gods of the 4 major forces. The gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace, who were the closest, looked at the battle and a figure said, "That Dragon King is very strange. He clearly didn't ignite the divine fire, but he can have the combat power of a god and fight above his level? That huge millstone is not simple. It's a divine weapon. I really didn't expect him to have a divine weapon. Even I am a little tempted." So what if he is tempted? A divine weapon will choose its owner. With your strength, you still can't suppress this divine weapon. This big millstone is not simple. There's already an existence on Earth that's comparable to a god. Before long there might be more and more. Even we have to be careful. In the sky above the Lingxiao treasured palace, figures were talking. Do you guys think that this Dragon King is Yaman's match? Probably not. After all, he didn't ignite the divine fire. He relied on the divine weapon to have such strength. If he gets close to Yaman, he'll die a terrible death. The 2 gods from the soaring heavens treasure palace expressed their opinions. Divine weapon. Wang Xian looked at the shroud with a glimmer in his eyes. The 5 elements millstone couldn't keep up with his current speed. Even so, the 5 dragon balls on the 5 elements millstone had already reached the godly state. The entire 5 elements millstone could rival the weakest 5 divine weapons. This shroud was not a very strong divine weapon. I have to say that you have exceeded my expectations. You actually have a divine weapon. However, even if you have a divine weapon, I will still refine you into a mummy and let you enjoy the pain of millions of years. Kill my Yaman's son. I will make you suffer so much that you wish you were dead. Yaman stared at Wang Xian and roared furiously. Her son was killed and she was burning with rage. Oh, the millstone of the Dragon King is actually a divine weapon? No wonder he can fight against the gods. Is a divine weapon that awesome? He can actually fight against the gods? He wants me to have a divine weapon as well. When everyone heard Yaman's words, they were also astonished. They had a slight understanding of the fact that the Dragon King could fight against the gods without igniting the divine fire. At this moment, the shroud was like a huge wave. It emitted the burying power of the earth and attacked the 5 elements millstone directly. He, you are only slightly stronger than the sea god. Wang Xian looked at the shroud that was sweeping over and snorted coldly. 5 elements millstone, suppress. He shouted in a low voice. The 5 elements millstone spun and the energy that was extinguished filled the surroundings. The entire millstone attacked the shroud like a chainsaw. At the same time, Wang Xian's figure moved and attacked the Yaman deity directly. How dare you attack me? Yaman stared at Wang Xian's figure with a murderous gaze. Her face was filled with hostility. Go to hell. She waved her arm and soil spikes appeared in front of her palm. These soil spikes numbered in the thousands and covered an area of dozens of kilometers. Countless earth spikes attacked Wang Xian directly. Upon seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air again. It was so terrifying. This Dragon King rushing over is a little irrational. When the gods who were paying attention saw this scene, they shook their heads lightly. A mortal who did not ignite the divine fire was courting death by getting close to him without a divine weapon. However, under everyone's shocked gaze, Wang Xian extended his right hand. His entire right palm instantly enlarged and became tens of kilometers in circumference. Bam! The dragon claw that was tens of kilometers in circumference was covered with craggy dragon scales. It looked indestructible. When the dragon claw grabbed onto the gigantic earth spike, the earth spike immediately collapsed. How is this possible? Yaman looked at the gigantic dragon claw and his expression changed drastically. He was filled with astonishment. The gods who were watching from all directions were also filled with astonishment. This claw. The gods from the Lingxiao treasured palace looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. It's just a god with a wisp of divine fire. Wang Xian stared at the Yaman god. His eyes were filled with coldness. No, you're just a mortal. How can you possess such a terrifying physical body? The god of Yaman roared in disbelief. She tapped her feet lightly and the divine kingdom beneath her attacked Wang Xian directly. Around the dragon country, mummies wrapped in shrouds appeared one after another. There were tens of thousands of them. Each of the mummies was exuding immense strength. They were connected to the pyramids. Among the mummies, there were dozens of gigantic creatures wrapped in shrouds. The strength of the gods from the pyramid faction and their divine kingdom was related to these mummies. The more and stronger the mummies were, the stronger their divine kingdom would be. Boom. The pyramids brought tens of thousands of powerful mummies to meet Wang Xian's sharp claws. However, when the dragon claw collided with the pyramid, the entire pyramid was grabbed by the dragon claw. Earth attribute divine kingdom, perfect. Chapter 1921. 1921 God Slayer. Earth attribute divine kingdom, perfect. When Wang Xian's dragon claw grabbed hold of the divine kingdom, he commented lightly. Now the upgrade of the dragon palace required a divine kingdom with 9 attributes. Now that the darkness, fire and metal attributes had been gathered, adding this earth attribute, there were only 5 more to go. Boom. When Wang Xian's dragon claw grabbed hold of the divine kingdom, the entire divine kingdom trembled. As for the mummies around the divine kingdom, they died immediately. Even if they didn't die, there weren't any marks on the dragon claw. Now Wang Xian's strength was comparable to a god with 3 wisps of divine fire. If he didn't want to test the strength of the 5 elements millstone today, he could have instantly killed Yaman. What? No. Yaman looked at his kingdom of God being grabbed. His body trembled violently and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. How is this possible? He used that terrifying claw to grab the divine kingdom of the gods. Oh my God, is the Dragon King going against the heavens? Everyone's eyes widened when they saw this scene. They were filled with disbelief. The gods who were paying attention to this scene were also in shock. Retract. Wang Xian grabbed with his dragon claw and the entire divine kingdom began to transform. Screams of pain came from within the divine kingdom. The mummies and Yaman's subordinates inside the divine kingdom let out desperate screams. In the middle of Wang Xian's dragon claw, the shadow of the divine shadow dragon kingdom appeared and slowly swallowed the entire pyramid. Walala. After the pyramid was absorbed by the divine shadow dragon kingdom, a large amount of blood slowly flowed out from the 9 heads of the 9 dragons in the dragon transformation pool at the location of the dragon palace. All the resources in the divine kingdom were channeled into the dragon palace. The moment the divine kingdom was destroyed, the Yamen god revealed a pained and shocked expression. The divine kingdom was an extremely important part of a god. Without the support of the divine kingdom, one couldn't be called a god. He was the source of power for a god. If the divine kingdom was destroyed, the combat strength of this god would be reduced by half or even more. Go down and see your son. Wang Xian revealed a cold expression on his face. He moved his body and attacked her. No, CK, save me. Yamen's face revealed a look of panic. He immediately cried out to the other gods in the pyramid for help. Oh no! Thousands of kilometers away, the gods in the pyramid who were watching the battle indifferently had a slight change of expression when they saw this scene. They had thought that Yamen could easily kill a mortal who had not ignited the divine fire. They did not even have the slightest bit of worry when they saw the other party's divine weapon. However, in just an instant, Yamen's divine kingdom was destroyed and even fell into danger. Dragon King, stop! A god of the pyramid faction roared and came from thousands of kilometers away, teleporting over. What is the Dragon King doing? Is he killing gods? The gods from the pyramid faction are here. Before the live broadcast, when everyone at the summit of Mount Hua looked at the extremely powerful Dragon King and heard the voice of another god from the pyramid, they opened their mouths slightly. The strength displayed by the Dragon King shocked all of them. Die. It was as if Wang Xian didn't hear that voice. The Yamen god that was locked onto by the dragon claw was clawing at her. Her divine kingdom was forced. Her face turned pale after being severely injured. She quickly dodged to the side. However, at this moment their speed had already decreased by more than half. In the face of an attack from Wang Xian that was comparable to 3 wisps of divine fire god, they were completely defenseless. Crack, crack. The dragon claw covered Yamen. She looked at the destructive aura coming from the gigantic dragon claw and her face was filled with unwillingness and despair. No. The last sound was heard and the dragon claw was closed. Boom. At this moment, a torrent was charging toward Wang Xian from the west. Above the torrent stood a majestic middle-aged man. Another god from the pyramid had arrived. Stop. The middle-aged man roared furiously as the torrent charged toward Wang Xian. Boom. Wang Xian waved his dragon claw and a stream of destructive energy charged toward him. The 2 streams of terrifying energy collided in the air and dissipated slowly. He looked at the middle-aged man coldly and absorbed Yamen's corpse into the dragon palace. Boom. The moment Yamen's corpse was absorbed, the entire world trembled. The world was wailing. You actually killed Yamen. The middle-aged man glared at Wang Xian with murderous intent and growled in a low voice. So what if I killed him? Wang Xian floated in the sky and stared at the god in the pyramid expressionlessly. Crush. At this moment, the shroud let out a mournful cry when it saw its master being killed in the sky. Without the support of the Yamen divine kingdom, the strength of the shroud had been reduced by a lot. Buzz. The 5 elements millstones spun and gray chains wrapped around the shroud and slowly pressed down on it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, majestic figures flew over from the western horizon. 2 figures were enveloped by earthy yellow energy. Waves of powerful aura locked onto Wang Xian. The 5 gods of the pyramid had arrived. The Dragon King has killed a god. All the gods of the pyramid faction have arrived. Oh my god, are they going to besiege the Dragon King? If the other 5 gods of the pyramid attack the Dragon King will probably die as well. Look, the Dragon King is so calm. Even when facing the 5 gods of the pyramid faction, his expression doesn't change at all. At this moment, when God Yamen was killed by the Dragon King and when all the gods of the pyramid arrived, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at the incomparably powerful Dragon King, and their hearts were incomparably shocked. Even when facing 5 gods, he still said, so what if I kill him? One person facing 5 gods not moving at all. So strong he actually killed Yamen so forcefully. His strength should be comparable to 2 wisps of divine fire gods. A mortal who hasn't ignited divine fire, how can he be so strong? Could it be that he has some kind of bloodline or a strong physique? When all the gods who were watching the scene saw this scene, they were also shocked in their hearts. In the sky above the peak of Mount Hua, the atmosphere instantly became heavy. The mournful cries of heaven and earth continued to reverberate in the surrounding area for tens of thousands of miles. The 5 gods from the pyramid faction stared at Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at them indifferently. Among the 5 gods, the strongest one ignited 3 wisps of divine fire. He wasn't afraid at all. In fact, with the strength of the Dragon Palace, he could even destroy the 5 gods of the pyramid. Roar! At this moment, a dragon's roar was heard from the north. "Ha dragon soul, dragon soul." A maniacal laughter was heard, causing the solemn atmosphere to be slightly stunned. In the north, the shadow of a dragon soul shot straight into the sky. In the middle of the dragon soul stood a young man who exuded darkness and evil. Dragon soul? The 5 pyramid gods were attracted by the dragon soul, and their eyes were burning. "I'll kill him in the future." A middle-aged figure trembled and charged towards the dragon soul. The eyes of the other pyramid gods flickered as they flew towards the dragon soul. Compared to taking revenge for Yamen, who they didn't have a deep relationship with, the dragon soul was more important in their hearts. Furthermore, the Dragon King's strength should be comparable to a god with 2 wisps of divine fire, and he also had a divine weapon. It would not be so easy to kill him. As for avenging Yamen, they would talk about it when there was a chance. Chapter 1922. 1922 Dragon King, son of heaven of the true dragon? Go. Dragon soul. In the sky above the peak of Mount Hua, everyone was stunned when they saw the 5 gods of the pyramid leave and teleport towards the location of the dragon soul. They left just like that. They actually didn't take revenge for that Yamen god. The Dragon King's strength isn't weak to begin with, and he even has a divine weapon. Perhaps they don't want to fight to the death. If one of them is taken away or if they are heavily injured, it's not worth it at all. Seeing the 5 gods leave, everyone turned to look at the figure floating in the sky. The once invincible Dragon King was now the God-Slayer Dragon King. After today, the Dragon King's fame would shake the entire world. In fact, the Dragon King could even be compared to those top gods. Oh, the Dragon Soul actually appeared, and it seems to have been obtained by someone. The Pyramid's factions really aren't united. Their comrades died, yet they still don't help take revenge, hee. Aren't the Pyramid's factions like this to begin with? Each fighting for their own to form a tribe of gods. Speaking of which, we are all like this. In the sky above the Lingxiao treasured palace, a few figures were conversing. One of the women smiled faintly and coldly. When her voice fell, the other figures did not say a word. The topic of conversation was immediately terminated. The people who had transmigrated to this place were all here for a great opportunity. Although they all belonged to the skyscraping treasured palace, they were not as united as they had imagined. Especially a few years ago, when the various large god countries were born, they had a huge dispute over the treasures within. If it were not for the people above them restraining them, they might have already started fighting. "Everyone, I'm going down to take a look. Maybe I can obtain the dragon soul." An old man said indifferently, and his figure disappeared instantly. The other few figures followed closely behind and disappeared instantly. Hee. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was standing in the sky above the divine mountain Hua Mountain, swept a cold glance at the 5 gods who had left the pyramid. Wang Xian didn't have the slightest fear towards the 5 gods. If he was not afraid that the entire earth would be in great danger if they really started fighting, Wang Xian might have called Ao Xingmu, Ao Qitian, and the rest over. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, they could still destroy the power of the gods, the pyramid. They could also obtain huge resources for the Dragon Palace and nurture a few gods. However, Wang Xian gave it some thought and decided to give up. The current strength of the Dragon Palace was not enough to completely crush the pyramid. If they were to fight, even if they could not destroy the current earth, at least half of the earth would be destroyed. After all, the earth was his home. He could not destroy the earth just because of the resources. Kill me in the future? In the future, it is not certain who will be destroyed. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he scanned his surroundings indifferently. With a move, he disappeared. His figure appeared above the city that was 100 kilometers away. He took out the god-striking twigs and quietly sensed the figures and auras of the 2 little girls. He wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't search the entire area. If there were no figures of the two little girls within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, there was only one possibility. The memories of the two little girls had completely awakened. It was possible that they had something to do. Wang Xian comforted himself like this. Phew, they've left. They've all left. That Dragon King is really terrifying and strong. I found some information about the Dragon King on the internet. I asked my father and the rest, and he said that all of these were true. If you see, the Dragon King once suppressed the entire era. He's indeed stronger. I just heard from my grandfather that the Dragon King is simply heaven-defying. He's too awesome. Oh right, do you remember when the gods descended, the Sea King once said something about the Dragon King? He was just an ant. However, he destroyed the Dragon King's dragon palace. Now the sea god was killed half a year ago. It's terrifying to think about it. Even the 5 gods of the pyramid are slightly afraid of the Dragon King. This is too heaven-defying. Do you think that the sea god was killed by the Dragon King? There is an 80% chance that the sea god is also a god who lit a wisp of divine fire. He is no match for the Dragon King at all. When the 5 gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace left and when Wang Xian left, the entire world was in an uproar. This battle between the gods was recorded completely. It even erupted under the attention of more than 1 billion people. The Dragon King's strength and invincibility shocked many people, especially the disciples of the 4 major forces. They knew how powerful the gods were, and even how difficult it was to break through to become a god. However, a native of Earth actually broke through to become a god. It was hard to imagine. And those young people who learned about the Dragon King's deeds from their elders were all dumbfounded. The Dragon King had shocked the entire world. I didn't expect Master to be so powerful. Xiao Ran's eyes were filled with shock as he watched his master disappear. Perhaps he's even stronger than you think. Ji Lingfei thought of Ao Xingmu, Ao Qitian, and Ao Jian in the villa in River City, and her eyes sparkled. She didn't understand how a native of Earth could have such terrifying strength and subordinates. Haha, the dragon soul belongs to me. You bunch of trash are dreaming if you want to take it away from me. While the entire world was shocked by the appearance of the Dragon King and the killing of the gods, the 9 dragons were the closest to Mount Hua. Roar! A youth whose entire body was shrouded in darkness roared with a ferocious and excited face. The entire dragon soul was dyed by the darkness on his body. He stared at the 5 figures in front of him. There was not the slightest bit of worry or fear on his face. Instead, it was filled with unbridled arrogance. He even directly called them trash. Oh? When the 5 gods of the pyramid faction heard this young man's address, their expressions instantly darkened. Waves of killing intent gathered on their bodies. Hmpich, a god who once died, has yet to completely recover his strength. How dare he be so arrogant? Go to hell. A god's eyes were filled with killing intent. With a wave of his arm, a cage that was 10 kilometers wide appeared around the young man, sealing him completely. Kiki, do you know what it means to be a dragon whose head is nowhere to be seen? I am the son of the true dragon. I will remember you. The next time I meet you, I will personally kill you. The young man who was emitting a bloody and terrifying aura roared. The dragon soul entered his body and disappeared. Oh! The instant the young man disappeared, the expressions of the 5 gods from the pyramid became ugly. The Lingxiao treasure hall god who was rushing over also had a dark expression. His eyes were shining as he stopped. Even the eternal god lord fell on this planet. More and more of the fallen gods have obtained a chance to survive. Even we have to be careful of their methods. That young man just now is somewhat like the enemy of humanity in that great battle. Chapter 1923. 1923 Dragon King, the son of heaven of the true dragon. Earth is becoming more and more unsafe. In the sky, the gods in the Lingxiao palace looked at the disappearing dragon soul and the young figure with complicated expressions. There were already natives on Earth who had killed gods, and the gods who had fallen had been resurrected because of all sorts of great opportunities. Some of those gods who had fallen back then might have the strength of an eternal god lord. Once such existences awakened their memories, their cultivation speed would be extremely terrifying. In fact, when they ignited a wisp of divine fire, they would be able to kill those of a higher level. There was also that person who had obtained the great opportunity to obtain the dragon soul. The divine dragon had been a peak existence in the entire universe since ancient times. Even if it wasn't a pure divine dragon bloodline, it was still incomparably terrifying. The revived ancient gods and the true dragon son of heaven. The gods that had descended this time weren't very strong amongst the gods. This was because the top-tier gods didn't want to take the risk of descending here. And with their strength, they might not be a match for the stronger ancient gods in a few years. Apart from the ancient gods, the evil creatures in the dark god countries gave them a headache. We still have 4.5 years before we can bring Earth back to the boundless star field. We have to be more vigilant in these 4.5 years. In addition, report the situation on Earth to the higher-ups. Let's see what the higher-ups in the boundless star field say. A figure said indifferently and then disappeared in an instant. The other gods also nodded silently and disappeared. Below them, the 5 gods of the pyramid also disappeared with ugly expressions. Damn it, the dragon soul was actually obtained by that guy. At this moment, 10,000 meters underground, the earthen grandson and the young master of the Protoss looked up with extremely ugly expressions. Their faces were ashen. Just now, it seemed like a god died from the wailing of heaven and earth. It seems like we have to ignite the divine fire first and advance to God. As he spoke, his body moved and disappeared. No, there's still nothing here. Did the flower and Kyre awaken completely, or did the star grass take them away? In the sky above a city around Mount Hua, Wang Xian sensed the auras of the 2 girls and shook his head helplessly. Let's go. Wang Xian didn't continue searching. The area of Earth had increased by several times. There were all kinds of ancient lands. If he wanted to find the 2 of them, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. He did not continue his search. Whether they would meet again in the future would depend on fate. Wang Xian moved and teleported towards Jianghu City. At the same time, at the peak of Mount Hua, the Dragon King had destroyed the School of 9 Gates with a single hand. As a result, the competition of the 5 great academies had turned into the competition of the 4 great academies. The first round of the competition of the 4 great academies was almost ruined. The following competition of the 4 great academies continued. However, the attention was obviously not as great as it was at the beginning. The Dragon King's return had destroyed the 9 Gates Academy and killed a god in the pyramid, causing the entire world to boil. The internet was filled with discussions about the Dragon King. In a short period of time, all of the Dragon King's deeds had been dug up. Many of them had even been greatly exaggerated. When they saw that the Dragon King had once suppressed an ERA and established the Undersea Dragon Palace for all the experts to worship, the hearts of the youths and the younger generation trembled slightly. This caused many people to be filled with reverence and respect for the Dragon King. The Dragon King dominated the age of Vipralopa. After the recovery of spiritual energy, he was able to kill a god. I really want to know what kind of opportunity the Dragon King had obtained to make him so powerful. When the sea god descended, he once destroyed the Dragon Palace with one palm. Were the members of the Dragon Palace killed? Was the sea god killed by the Dragon King? According to my guess, 80% of the sea god was killed by the Dragon King. The gods never killed each other. It must be the Dragon King. So far on Earth, only the Dragon King can kill gods. The founder of the Dragon Gate Academy, Xiao Ran, seems to be the disciple of the Dragon King. No wonder Xiao Ran could rise so quickly. The internet was filled with topics about the Dragon King. Thinking about the Yaman god who had been killed today, some people thought of the sea god who had fallen half a year ago, and thought of the dean of the Dragon Gate Academy, Xiao Ran. A person who could kill a god on Earth also filled many people on Earth with hope. Perhaps one day they would be able to reach the level of the Dragon King. While the matter of the Dragon King was boiling over, there was another matter that caused a huge sensation. The dragon soul of the land of the 9 dragons beside Mount Hua had been obtained by someone. The person who obtained it was a god who had been resurrected in the ancient war. According to rumors, the person who obtained the dragon soul was still extremely arrogant when facing the 5 gods of the pyramid. He did not take them seriously at all. Did the Dragon King also obtain a dragon soul? You must know that the Dragon King was able to transform into an extremely majestic divine dragon back then. When the dragon soul incident erupted, someone suddenly asked. When everyone saw this question, they could not help but be slightly stunned. During the Age of Chaos, the Dragon King was able to transform into a divine dragon to fight. Was it because the Dragon King obtained the dragon soul? This conjecture was immediately confirmed by many people. There were even television stations that speculated that when the Dragon King rose to power, it was very likely because of the dragon soul. The news that the Dragon King had obtained the dragon soul quickly spread across the entire internet. Even the disciples of the four great forces and even the gods slowly nodded when they saw this conjecture. On Earth there might not be 9 dragon souls but 10. However, the first dragon soul had already been fused by the Dragon King. Because of the fusion of one dragon soul, Earth would have one more Dragon King. And the Dragon King was the first true dragon son of heaven. That Dragon King should have obtained the dragon soul. Legend has it that the divine dragon can easily fight above his level. This is also the reason why he was able to kill Yaman without igniting the divine fire. Some of the gods looked at the information one by one, and their eyes lit up. Due to special reasons, the Dragon King had obtained the dragon soul during the Age of Chaos, allowing him to rise up in power. When this guess was accepted by many people, everyone frantically rushed into the land of the 9 dragons. Currently there were only 7 out of the 9 dragon souls left. However, if one could obtain the dragon soul, one would be able to reach the realm of the Dragon King. This was simply reaching the heavens in one step. Not to mention the people on Earth, even the disciples of the 4 great factions hadn't paid much attention to this matter. Now they had stepped into the land of the 9 dragons and wanted to become the true dragon son of heaven. As long as one could obtain a dragon soul, they would have the strength to slaughter a god in the future. However, what the billions of people didn't know was that the so-called dragon soul was just a huge net. All the dragon soul will become a lamb to be slaughtered. Chapter 1924. 1924. The era of the gods began in 1924. Wow, sister, look. The Earth's crust had changed. It was now the largest forest on Earth, under the Amazon rainforest. In a corner of the huge Amazon rainforest, a voice suddenly sounded from an extremely mysterious undersea tree. It was like a dream world. There were trees and flowers everywhere, covering an area of more than 100 kilometers. The entire underwater world was emitting boundless vitality. A little girl was sitting on a chair made of tree branches. She was holding a computer in her hand, and her legs were shaking non-stop. What's wrong, sister? Not far away, a 1.4-meter-tall girl was knitting something. She raised her head and looked at the girl, who cried out in surprise. Come and take a look. That bad guy is looking for us. The 2 little girls from the undersea forest world were naturally Huar and Kair. Huar held the computer and pouted her little mouth as she came to Kair's side. She pointed at the information on it. Ha! Kair was slightly stunned when she saw the information on it. Her eyes sparkled and she was somewhat absent-minded. That bad guy actually killed a god in order to find us. Sister, should we go and find him? Huar looked at the invincible figure in the screen and said in a daze. Kair's expression changed as well. She was slightly touched. Before they died, they had lived for more than 1,000 years. They had their parents and brothers to take care of them. They had always lived in their parents' divine kingdom. After they became gods, they got involved in the world-destroying battle because they were too playful. In the end, they died. When they woke up, they were taken care of and doted on by that man. It could be said that other than their parents, he was the best person to them. He gave them heavenly marrow water to drink and all kinds of pills to eat as candy. In the past, only their parents would treat them so well. Should we go back and be his daughter? Kair scratched her green hair with a frown. Why don't we go back and call him little brother and father? Huar raised her eyebrows and said to Kair, Little brother and father? What kind of name is that? Forget it. We'll cultivate as soon as possible. When we recover to the godly state, we'll have grown up. We'll look for him then. Kair gritted her teeth and said, All right then, I will go cultivate. Huar nodded and quietly put away the computer in her hand. She immediately headed towards the training grounds in the god realm. Kair looked at her sister and smiled slightly. It was really rare for her sister to take the initiative to cultivate. The 2 of them were twin sisters and they were not ordinary twins. When one of them had some understanding and one of them improved, the other could also improve. If they cultivated together, the speed of their cultivation would be twice as fast. Their parents said that they were a rare humus body in the universe. I need to speed up the progress. At this moment, in the villa in Jianghu City, Wang Xian was overlooking the ocean in front of him. It had been more than 10 days since Huar or Kair left. During these 10 days, Wang Xian suddenly felt bored. In the past, he didn't feel anything when there were 2 little girls around. Now, he felt like he had nothing to do. Looking at the information on the computer beside him, Wang Xian's eyes flickered. He couldn't afford to be so relaxed every day. It was time to accelerate his plan. In the past half a month, more than 1 billion people have poured into the land of the 9 dragons. Among them, there are more than 10 ancient gods who have fallen and resurrected. It's time to choose from them. Wang Xian mumbled and closed his eyes slightly. He began to select the so-called true dragon son of heaven. Roar, 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 dragon soul. I have obtained the dragon soul. In the future, this world will be ruled by me. I will rule the world and roam the universe. True dragons are invincible. Ah! In the next few days, in the other land of the 7 dragons, more and more dragon souls were gradually obtained. Arrogant voices resounded throughout the world. The gods were filled with excitement because they had obtained the dragon souls. They were reincarnated gods and they had huge resources. Now that they had obtained the dragon souls, they were confident that they could reach a higher realm. They even had the confidence to dominate the entire world. As more and more dragon souls were obtained, the world boiled with excitement, and more people fought for the other dragon souls. Many people even found gods in the land of the 9 dragons. However, none of the godly state experts had obtained dragon souls. A month later, when the last dragon soul let out a roar, the 9 dragon souls all belonged to someone. The entire world was shocked. From then on, the 9 true dragon sons of heaven were born and the powers of the world were reshuffled. The Dragon King was known as the head of the true dragon sons of heaven. Roar, roar, roar. One day a month later, a dragon roar sounded. Near a dark ancient land, a blurry black light covered tens of thousands of miles and a dark demonic dragon rose into the sky. A huge divine kingdom slowly appeared in the sky. Below the divine kingdom, a young man who was emitting a violent and bloody aura was holding up the divine kingdom. I am the son of the demon dragon. Today I will ignite the divine fire and hold up the divine kingdom. Roar, roar, roar. I, the 10 dragons, will be the leader and the darkness will be the king. A voice filled with a domineering aura resounded through the world. In an instant the entire earth shook and everyone looked in that direction. The darkness boiled, the heaven and earth played music, and a god was born. Someone actually became a god and it's the person who obtained the dragon soul. Oh my god. Is this becoming a god? Heaven and earth congratulates and the world shakes. After the birth of the first god on earth, everyone was filled with shock. They all looked over and felt an urge to worship him. The majestic bearing that lifted the divine kingdom and the unrivaled domineering aura made everyone's heart palpitate. Even the Dragon King hasn't lit the divine fire yet. I didn't expect someone to become a god. It's really like a mountain is taller than a mountain. Do you think he's a match for the Dragon King? He has become a god, and he's even the son of heaven of the true dragon. He should be stronger than the Dragon King, right? Everyone was talking about the newly born dark demon dragon god, their eyes filled with shock. The first god was born, lifting up the divine kingdom and shaking the world. You guys light up the divine fire and ascend to God. In the other 4 forces, the gods said to the figures in front of them. As the gods that descended after the heaven and earth changed, many fallen gods that had yet to awaken their memories were discovered and controlled by them. These fallen gods could be said to be their greatest gains. Now, when they saw someone ignite the divine fire to become a god, they also let the fallen gods ignite the divine fire once more. Boom, boom, boom. The heaven and earth cheered. In the next 10 or so days, one god after another was born, and their divine kingdoms were raised high up. Chapter 1925. 1925. The disciples of the Dragon Palace arrived in 1925. It's the 22nd time. In just 2 short months, 22 gods were born. Master, how did they cultivate? Ever since Master fed me those 2 fruits, I've been hunting a lot of demonic cores during this period of time. I thought that my strength had improved very quickly. But now, my strength has only reached level 7 demigod. Even that young master of the celestial race lit up the divine fire yesterday. In the villa in Jianghu City, Xiao Ran stood beside Wang Xian with a bitter face and said to him, "You can't compare to them. They were once gods but they died. Now that their memories have been restored, as long as they have sufficient resources, they will be able to recover very quickly. And with all the treasures on earth now, it's normal for them to light the divine fire." Wang Xian looked at Xiao Ran beside him and said to him calmly, "I was thinking of establishing a force, but I didn't expect that." Xiao Ran smiled bitterly, feeling a little defeated. "Even I haven't lit the divine fire yet, so don't be anxious." Wang Xian looked at Ji Lingfei beside him and smiled at her. Ji Lingfei knew that Wang Xian was observing her strength. Currently, her strength had already recovered to level 9 of the demigod realm. It would still be some time before her strength recovered. "Teacher, I received a piece of news." Suddenly, Ji Lingfei hesitated for a moment and said to Wang Xian, What news?" Wang Xian looked at her and asked. "According to the information I received, the gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace are preparing to attack the ancient land of darkness and hunt the demonic beasts of the godly state to increase their strength. The demonic cores of demonic beasts of the godly state are a rare treasure for godly state experts. The demonic cores can greatly increase a person's strength." Ji Lingfei's eyes flickered. "If you can obtain the demonic cores of demonic beasts, you might be able to ignite the divine fire. However, the ancient land of darkness will be very dangerous." Now, everyone knew that Xiao Ran was the Dragon King's disciple. Currently, Longmen Academy was the leader of the few major academies. The stronger the Dragon King was, the greater the benefits it would bring to Xiao Ran. Ji Lingfei also hoped that Wang Xian could ignite the divine fire as soon as possible. Attack the ancient lands of darkness. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. "Yes. Teacher, you can bring Xiao Ran and I to the ancient lands of darkness to hunt Yaoxia. If you can destroy the ancient lands of darkness, you will definitely be able to ignite the divine fire. Furthermore, according to the information I received, the strongest evil demon in the ancient land of darkness should not be stronger than the 3 wisps of divine fire." Ji Lingfei continued to speak to Wang Xian. "A god with 3 wisps of divine fire? Is there such a terrifying evil demon?" Xiao Ran was slightly shocked and a look of shock appeared on his face. Wang Xian looked at Ji Lingfei and a look of deep thought appeared on his face. This news was obviously obtained from the Lingxiao treasured palace. It could be considered confidential information. He hesitated for a moment and didn't make a decision immediately. Xiao Ran and Ji Lingfei stayed here for a while before leaving. When they left the villa, Ji Lingfei frowned slowly. She had encountered some trouble recently. "Lingfei, what's wrong? Is there something unhappy?" Xiao Ran looked at her frowning face and asked with concern. "I'm fine." Ji Lingfei smiled and shook her head. "Let's go back to the academy. The second batch of students are starting to enroll now. There are a few good geniuses who want to join our academy. Now, should we start harvesting the spoils of war or go to the dark ancient land?" Wang Xian watched Xiao Ran and the rest leave as he looked at the ancient land of darkness 100 kilometers away. In the past 2 months, more than 20 gods had been born. It was completely out of his expectations. Among these gods, 9 of them were the ones who had obtained the dragon souls. Today he had already started to consider whether he should harvest the spoils of war and collect the 9 dragon souls. It was very easy for Wang Xian to collect them. In this way he could obtain 9 clones in an instant, and they were all clones that ignited a wisp of divine fire. With the nourishment, each of these 9 clones would have the ability to fight 3 levels higher. Should I collect them now or wait? The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. From his senses, these 9 true dragon sons of heaven were not simple. I should let them continue their cultivation. Wang Xian thought lightly. "Qitian." He shouted softly at Ao Jian. "Dragon King." Ao Qitian's figure immediately appeared at the side and bowed. "Return to the Dragon Palace and call Ba Qi, Ao Qi and the rest over. Also, bring 100 members of the Demon War Department over." Wang Xian ordered Ao Qitian. "It's the Dragon King." Ao Qitian nodded respectfully and teleported away immediately. The news from Ji Lingfei should be correct. Since that's the case, let's go hunt down those demons and monsters to raise the strength of the Dragon Palace. Now that the gods on earth have risen, let's also gradually transfer the power of the Dragon Palace over. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. He had been here for 8 to 9 months. It was time for the disciples of the Dragon Palace to be gradually transferred over. Perhaps, before long, another Dragon Palace will be erected on the ocean and all the forces will come to pay their respects. Wang Xian looked at the ocean in front of him and slowly looked at the lofty palace in the sky. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "Greetings, Dragon King." Half an hour later, Ao Qiqian led Ba Qi, Ao Qi, and 100 members of the Demon War Department to the sky above the villa. They bowed respectfully to Wang Xian. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the members of the Dragon Palace and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. After the last time they destroyed the Yamen god, Ao Qi and Ba Qi had already reached the peak of the demigod realm. With their strength they could definitely fight against a god with a wisp of divine fire. As for these 100 members of the Demon War Department, each of them had the cultivation level of a level 7 demigod. They were holding metal clubs at the peak of the demigod level, and their power was extraordinary. Even a demigod at level 8 could fight and even kill them. These hundreds of members of the Demon War Department were the best in the Dragon Palace. Get ready. There will be a battle tomorrow. Mo Qinglong, go and inform Xiaoran. Tell them to get ready tomorrow. Wang Xian looked at the members of the Dragon Palace with satisfaction and transmitted his voice to Mo Qinglong. It's the Dragon King. Mo Qinglong replied immediately. It's time to have a good fight. Wang Xian stood at the edge of the villa and looked ahead. Behind him, Ao Jian, Ao Qitian, Ao Xing, Mu Ao Qi, and Ba Qi were standing quietly behind him. Behind them were more than 100 members of the Demon War Department. Along with Wang Xian, the power of 6 godly states would definitely shock all the forces if the world knew about it. Chapter 1926. 1926. The Invasion of the Ancient Lands of Darkness. Lingfei, just now, Elder Mo sent us a message. Master said that he's going to attack the Ancient Lands of Darkness tomorrow. He wants us to get ready. In a room not far away from Wang Xian's villa, Xiaoran came to the top floor and spoke to Ji Lingfei. Oh, Master has decided to go? Ji Lingfei was slightly delighted as a smile appeared on her face. What's wrong, Lingfei? Why are you so happy that teacher is preparing to go to the Dark Ancient Land? The Dark Ancient Land is very dangerous. Xiaoran saw Ji Lingfei's expression and was slightly surprised. Logically speaking, whether they went to the Dark Ancient Land or not did not have much of an impact on them. Is that so? If we go to the Dark Ancient Land, teacher will have the possibility of igniting the divine fire, and his strength will be one step closer. Our strength will also be able to increase. Ji Lingfei said to him with a smile. Yes, but with teacher's strength, isn't it a little risky to go to the Dark Ancient Land? Xiaoran frowned slightly. It shouldn't be a problem. Xiaoran, go and inform some of the disciples and students in the academy. Go with teacher tomorrow. Ji Lingfei smiled faintly and shook her head at him. Yes, all right. Xiaoran nodded and walked out. Sigh. Looking at Xiaoran's departing figure, Ji Lingfei sighed slightly. Wang. At this moment, she sensed that an item in her interspatial ring was trembling. Her expression changed slightly, and she immediately walked into the room. Wang? Ji Lingfei waved her arm, and a mystical mirror appeared in front of her. In the mirror, an old man with a dignified face appeared. Master. Looking at the old man in the mirror, she immediately bowed and shouted. Have your senior brothers told you some things? The old man looked down at Consort Ji and asked expressionlessly. Master, I don't agree. Please think of your disciple. I don't even know Brown Warren of the Holy Church. Alright, you can't do this. This is just a negotiation between us and the Templar Hall. You better get ready. Ji Lingfei said excitedly, but was interrupted by the old man. Also, I heard from your senior that you are now hanging out with that native kid from that planet. You have to know your own identity. In the future, when I'm not around, you have to listen to your senior in everything. Tomorrow you go to your senior brother's place. Your senior brother will tell you everything. Alright, the consumption of long-distance communication is too great. Remember what your master said. The old man continued to speak to her, and then the scene disappeared. Ji Lingfei's expression changed slightly, and she clenched her fist unwillingly. Unless Xiaoran can reach the deity realm, unless Master Xiaoran's influence can be valued by Master, otherwise. She muttered weakly. The earth had changed and the gods had risen. Recently, only 6 of the 4 major influences had become gods, and the rest were gods who had awakened. Those gods already had the power to threaten the Lingxiao Treasured Palace and the other 3 influences. Now, the Lingxiao Treasured Palace wanted to ally with the Holy Church. And how to ally? I hope that Xiaoran and his master can grow up as soon as possible. I hope. She clenched her fists tightly. Quick, Everyone get ready this time. We must use 200% of our strength. The Dragon King will take us to the dark ancient land. Ah. The dean said that we can't be careless this time. The dark ancient land has the existence of God realm demons. This time, even if we can follow the Dragon King and pick up some demonic cores, we can still make a big profit. Early the next morning, a group of elite students and disciples flew to the seaside in front of the Dragon Gate Academy. They looked excited and excited. The Dragon King had brought them into the dark ancient land to hunt demonic beasts. This was an expert who could kill gods. Ling Fei, why did something happen to you all of a sudden? Yes, Sister Ling Fei, why did you suddenly want to go back to the Ling Xiao Palace? Xiao Ran, Lu Mingxin, Ji Ling Fei, and Qing Qing were standing by the seaside. Xiao Ran and his sister frowned slightly and asked, "There are some things that I have to go back for. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. We'll contact each other by phone when the time comes." Ji Ling Fei smiled at them. "Then come back as soon as possible." Xiao Ran hesitated for a moment and gently spread his arms. "Don't worry." Ji Ling Fei smiled sweetly and hugged him gently. "I'll just go back for a while. Don't worry." She whispered in Xiao Ran's ear and gently pecked his face. "Okay." Xiao Ran smiled foolishly and watched Ji Ling Fei and the others fly toward the Ling Xiao Palace. "Hee hee, sister-in-law, take care." Lu Mingxin shouted at Ji Ling Fei from the side. Ji Ling Fei waved at her. "Dean? Dean?" At this moment, the elite students and disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy rushed over. There were a total of over 1,000 people, all of them were experts at the Profound Void tier. Ever since the 5 Great Academies competition, Gate 9 Academy had been destroyed, and Dragon Gate Academy had obtained the first place in the competition, becoming the leader of the 4 Great Academies. The Lingfeng Academy was ranked second. Now it had replaced the Gate 9 Academy and become one of the 3 academies. After the competition, the matter of the headmaster of the Dragon Gate Academy becoming the disciple of the Dragon King was also exposed. Since then, many strong people joined the Dragon Gate Academy and became the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy. Now the Dragon Gate Academy had more than 1,000 insightful Emptiness Realm experts. "Stand here and wait." Xiao Ran looked at the group of disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy and revealed a satisfied expression on his face. He was very satisfied that the Dragon Gate Academy was able to develop to such a stage in such a short period of time. However, recently many people had lit divine flames and become gods, causing him to be somewhat disheartened. "It's the headmaster." Everyone immediately nodded respectfully. They looked forward and waited for the arrival of the Dragon King. "He's here, the Dragon King is here." It's so exciting to get close to the Dragon King. Not long after, figures appeared in everyone's sight. Ha! Xiao Ran looked over and was slightly stunned when he saw Ba Qi Aoqi and the group of demon monkeys. "Master." "Teacher." Xiao Ran and Lu Mingxin immediately went up and greeted respectfully. "Greetings, Dragon King." At the back, a group of Dragon Gate Academy's disciples and students immediately knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. With the current status and strength of the Dragon King, he was worthy of their worship. "Okay." Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. His gaze swept across the 1,000 people from Dragon Gate Academy. Sensing the Dragon King's gaze, everyone didn't dare to raise their heads. They were all very respectful. "Kick these 50 over people out of the academy. The rest will follow." Wang Xian waved his arm and more than 50 of them were immediately moved to the side by him. Ha! Xiao Ran saw the 50 over people who were moved to the side by Wang Xian. He was slightly stunned and did not understand. However, he did not ask further. He immediately nodded his head. "What's the situation?" The group of Dragon Gate Academy's disciples and students were slightly stunned. They were filled with astonishment. Chapter 1927. 1927 Under the Might of Dragon King 1927. What was going on? The more than 50 people who were called to the side by Wang Xian were slightly stunned. Their expressions instantly turned ugly. The expressions of a few of them changed slightly. "Dragon King, we have been loyal ever since we joined Dragon Gate Academy. Why did you kick us out? What did we do wrong?" A young man stood up directly. His expression changed slightly as he questioned Wang Xian. Let's go. Wang Xian didn't even look at the young man as he spoke to Xiao Ran and the rest. It's Master. Xiao Ran nodded and gestured to the students and disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy. Dragon King we. Swoosh. At the back, the young man's expression changed slightly when he saw that Wang Xian didn't even bother with him. However, before he could finish his sentence, a sharp sword pierced through his body instantly. Cough cough. The young man's body froze immediately. He widened his eyes slightly and was filled with disbelief. But the golden sharp sword trembled slightly and his entire body dissipated. This. At the back, more than 50 people saw the young man being reduced to ashes instantly. Their pupils contracted slightly and they trembled for a moment. Some of them exchanged glances and fled into the distance. Gulp. Dragon King, what is this? The members of the Dragon Gate Academy were slightly shocked. They were filled with doubts. Some people are disloyal and have other motives. Wang Xian spoke to Xiao Ran indifferently. He had the heart of light and darkness and could see if some people were loyal. He could tell at a glance if there were people who were disloyal. However, he did not explain to those people. There was no need for him to explain. Thank you, Master. Xiao Ran immediately said gratefully when he heard Wang Xian's words. He did not have any doubts about his master's words. Moreover, his master would not target those 50-odd people whom he had never met for no reason. The students and disciples of Longmen Academy behind them did not need Wang Xian to explain to them. They were whispering that the Dragon King might have noticed that those people were up to no good. That was why he had expelled them. In this regard, the thousands of students of the Dragon Gate Academy nodded in agreement. Sometimes, when a powerhouse did something, there was no need to explain. Someone would help to explain. Why isn't your girlfriend, Ji Lingfei, here? Wang Xian asked Xiao Ran indifferently. Master, she has some matters to attend to. She has returned to the Lingxiao treasured palace. Xiao Ran said with a slightly red face. Hee. Wang Xian smiled. The group of them quickly walked toward the nearest dark ancient land. The dark ancient land in the ocean was only a few hundred kilometers away from Wang Xian. It was not far from them. After more than 10 minutes, a group of more than 1,000 people approached quickly. Around the dark ancient land, there were ferocious demonic beasts scattered around. When they saw Wang Xian and the rest approaching, they attacked in a frenzy. There are many demigod-level demonic beasts in the surroundings. If we come here we would be courting death. Is this the cave of the dark ancient land? It's so terrifying inside. There's a terrifying force coming from it. The disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy took a deep breath when they saw the location in front of them. Their eyes were filled with fear. Located above an island, there was a pitch-black hole that was so dark that one could not see the bottom. The dark energy seeped out from the hole, causing the area within a few thousand meters to be pitch black. From time to time, there would be ferocious demonic beasts crawling out from the hole. They ranged from the transcendent level to the demigod level. Roar! Without needing Wang Xian's order, the two members of the Demon War Department let out a low roar and charged out from behind them. Bang bang bang! The two demon monkeys were also emitting extremely violent dark energy. They held weapons at the peak of the demigod level in their hands and smashed them towards Wuxia. Bang bang bang! With a swing of their clubs, a demigod-level demon beast was smashed to death. The terrifying demonic aura and violent strength caused the surrounding Wuxia to tremble. He's so strong. Are those the subordinates of the Dragon King? Two of them are already so terrifying. This, a demigod-level demonic demon with one staff and that violent aura from his body. He's simply too powerful. When the students of the Dragon Gate Academy saw the terrifying attacks of the demon monkeys, their eyes widened slightly and their hearts trembled. Just two demon monkeys were already so powerful. What about the rest? Were they also this powerful? Their gazes looked at the 100+ experts behind the Dragon King as their eyes flickered. Go in. Xiao Ran, you guys stay behind. I will leave some demons below the demigod level for you. Wang Xian looked at the center of the dark ancient land. The entrance was 2,000 meters wide, and even he couldn't see the bottom of the abyss. He spoke to Xiao Ran and walked straight in. The members of the Dragon Palace immediately followed behind. Everyone be careful. You will be fighting some demons below the demigod level next. With your strength there is a possibility of death. Be on your guard. Xiao Ran reminded the students of the Longmen Academy and followed behind Wang Xian. What a deep cave entrance. I wonder how big this dark kingdom is. After entering the cave entrance, Wang Xian swept his gaze downwards. In some spots inside the cave entrance, pairs of blood-red eyes were staring at them. Roar, roar, roar. A brutal sound rang out, and the demonic beasts inside the cave directly attacked them. Roar. A few demon monkeys immediately went up to them, and the weapons in their hands smashed heavily onto their bodies. The demigod-level demonic beasts' corpses were directly kept into the interspatial ring. As for the transcendent-level profound void-level demonic beasts, they were directly left to the people of Dragon Gate Academy. This made all the students and disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy look excited. Roar, roar, roar. Continuous roars could be heard throughout the entire passageway. There were even hundreds of demigod-level demons. This is just the entrance and there are already hundreds of demigod-level demons. Doesn't that mean there are tens of thousands of them inside? Wang Xian walked towards the front indifferently. He didn't know much about this dark ancient land. He was sure that he knew a lot about the fallen gods. However, Wang Xian wasn't afraid at all. The divine light from the divine mountain could suppress the demons in the dark ancient land. It shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. After advancing for about 3 kilometers, an extremely huge space appeared in front of them. The interior of the Dark God Kingdom was like a bee's nest. It was similar to a cave. There were many densely packed caves in there. The densely packed void continued to extend forward. One could not see the end of it. It was at least a few hundred kilometers. The moment they entered the void, blood-red eyes stared at them. It was horrible. Chapter 1928. 1928 True Dragon Son of Heaven Song Li Shang. Is this the lair of the dark ancient land's demonic beasts? How can it be so terrifying? Hiss, just how many demonic beasts are there? When everyone stood at the edge of the entrance, the people from Dragon Gate Academy looked inside in shock. Especially when they saw those densely packed blood-red eyes, they felt their scalps go numb. Those blood-red eyes were filled with cruelty and cold-bloodedness as they stared at them coldly and mercilessly. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and swept his gaze across the surrounding caves and the demonic beasts inside. It seems that there are at least tens of millions of demonic beasts in the Kingdom of Darkness. Those demonic beasts of the divine realm should be located in the deepest part of the kingdom. Wang Xian looked at the interior of the divine kingdom and was slightly shocked. Looking at the nest, he felt a sense of familiarity. The dragon caves in the Dragon Palace were similar to this place. However, the difference was that the dragon caves in the Dragon Palace emitted a vast and majestic aura and a divine dragon aura. The nests in the interior only had bloodiness and brutality. Before the celestial race and the insect race were destroyed, there were no such dragon nests in the Dragon Palace. These dragon nests originated from the insect nests. These demonic nests are similar to the insect nests. I wonder what the relationship is between the two. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. Roar, roar, roar. Just as he was deep in thought, the demonic beasts with blood-red eyes in front of him let out a roar in unison and attacked him. Some of them had bone wings, some had more than 10 legs, and some had long tails. However, the strength of these demons were mostly at the transcendent level. Attack. Xiao Ran looked at the tens of thousands of demons pouncing at them and immediately ordered the people from Dragon Gate Academy. It's the Dean. The disciples of Dragon Gate Academy revealed excited expressions in their eyes. They could easily deal with these supernatural-level demons. The demon cores of supernatural-level demons were also a huge fortune to them. There should be some low-level demons at the edge. I'll bring the disciples of the Dragon Palace to the deeper areas. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings indifferently and said to Xiao Ran before walking straight ahead. It's Master. Xiao Ran nodded. Together with the disciples of the Dragon Gate, they quickly killed the surrounding demons. Wang Xian and the disciples of the Dragon Palace walked straight into the inner area. The surrounding demons attacked one by one. They were killed by the demon monkey with a sweep. With a simple attack, more than 1,000 demons were killed. Master's subordinates are so strong. They are even stronger than me. From the back, Xiao Ran glanced at the position in front of him and looked at the demon monkey. He was extremely shocked. Any random disciple of the Dragon Palace had strength that was even stronger than him. Kill? He clenched his teeth and his body shook. The terrifying flames immediately covered a radius of more than 10 kilometers. Headmaster is mighty. Headmaster is too strong, haha. The group of Dragon Gate Academy disciples immediately shouted excitedly when they saw the headmaster showing off his might. Quickly put away the monster core and follow. Xiao Ran immediately ordered. Yes, quickly take out the monster core. Haha, quickly follow behind the Dragon King and the others. With the headmaster and the Dragon King around, our Dragon Gate Academy will be rich this time. Excited voices sounded one after another. After everyone put away the monster core, they immediately walked forward. However, when they saw the scene in front of them, they opened their mouths slightly. The Dragon King and his entourage of more than 100 people walked forward as if they were taking a stroll under the setting sun. The surrounding nests were densely packed with countless monsters that pounced on them. However, on the left and right sides, there were only 2 demon monkeys holding black cudgels. With a sweep, all the monsters that pounced on them died. This scene shocked them beyond words. How strong are the subordinates of the Dragon King? Everyone was shocked. Get rid of the fish that escaped the net. At this moment, Xiao Ran's voice sounded. Everyone rushed forward to attack the demons in front of them. They were all excited. This time, after killing all the demons, their strength could at least increase by 1 level or even more. Wang Xian led the disciples of the Dragon Palace deeper into the Divine Kingdom. The dragon eyes of the Yin-Yang and 5 elements swept across the entire Divine Kingdom of Darkness. In this place, there were no other creatures other than densely packed caves on the surrounding walls. The deeper they went, the higher the level of the demonic demons. When they walked for about 50 kilometers, they were surrounded by demonic demons of the insightful void tier. The variety of demonic beasts was also more abundant, but the number of demonic beasts had decreased by a lot. However, there were still millions of demonic beasts. At the back, the people from the Dragon Gate Academy were already finding it difficult to hunt down the demonic beasts one by one. All members of the Demon War Department, take action and collect all the corpses. Wang Xian took a glance at the back and ordered more than 100 members of the Demon War Department to take action after leaving them with more than 10,000 insightful void tier demonic beasts. It's the Dragon King. Roar. The 100 demon monkeys let out a furious roar at the same time. Their violent voices reverberated throughout the entire Divine Kingdom. They waved the clubs in their hands and swept toward the demons in front of them. The 100 demons were able to fight a terrifying battle that was comparable to a demigod level 8. It was an easy feat for them to sweep away a group of insightful void-level demons. They swept across more than 100 kilometers and more than 2 million demons died in their hands. Wang Xian walked in the center. With a wave of his arm, the phantoms of the Divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom appeared and stored the corpses of the demons into the Dragon Palace. Even though they were all demons of the Void Interpretation level, there were more than 2 million of them. It was still a terrifying amount of resources. In the magnificent dragon pool, streams of dragon blood flowed in. The members of the Dragon Palace immersed themselves in the dragon pool to increase their strength. Heavenly troops and heavenly generals, let's go. Just as Wang Xian and the rest were hunting demonic beasts in the Dark Kingdom, a majestic voice sounded from the East Heaven Gate of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. At this moment, a group of gods led 100,000 heavenly troops and heavenly generals to fly toward a dark ancient land. After adding a few god-level powerhouses in the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, the gods of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace were ready to attack the Dark Kingdom. Once they took down a Dark God Kingdom, if all the resources inside were used to create godly state experts, at least 2 or 3 people would be able to advance to the godly state. This caused them to directly mobilize all the forces of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, more than a dozen gods and 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. The Lingxiao Treasured Palace has mobilized all its forces to attack a Dark God Kingdom. TSK. At this moment, in the sky above an ocean, a young man proudly looked at the group of gods and heavenly soldiers. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said indifferently, "Brother Song, they have at least 10 gods and 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals to attack a dark divine kingdom. Isn't our strength a little too little? Why don't we find a few more people?" A middle-aged man in golden armor stood beside the young man. His entire body was filled with boundless power. Behind him were over 1,000 silver-armored soldiers. Behind the other young man was a group of disciples from the 4 mountain factions. Chapter 1929. 1929 True Dragon Son of Heaven Song Lixiao. He brotherly, looks like you were a little weak in the past. I entered that dark divine kingdom over 100,000 years ago and I remember it very clearly. At that time, I killed more than 20 divine realm demonic beasts and there were definitely not more than 3 that could be revived. With my current strength I can deal with them. In the sky above the sea, the young man arrogantly said to the golden-armored middle-aged man. The young man was wearing green clothes. The picture of a divine dragon was engraved on his clothes, and his body was filled with a fierce aura. It's good that you are confident. I don't want to die again after being resurrected. The golden-armored middle-aged man said to him indifferently. Haha, with me Song Li here brotherly, don't worry. The young man in dragon robe revealed a strong sense of confidence, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. We of the Finger Sky Mountain believe in the strength of Lord Dragon God. If we destroy that ancient land of darkness, Lord Dragon God's strength will definitely increase. Behind Song Li, the disciples of the Finger Sky Mountain said respectfully from the side. Lord Dragon God has already ignited the divine fire and obtained the dragon soul. Once, 2 wisps of divine fire demonic evil rushed out from that ancient land of darkness. With your strength, Lord, you can easily kill it. The Mountain Lord of Sky Finger Mountain, Wei Haoge, who was ranked second on the prodigy roll, also respectfully flattered him. Brother Song's strength is unquestionable. Since Brother Song is so confident, let's go over. The golden-armored god looked at Song Li with a hint of jealousy in his eyes. The Dragon King used the unignited divine fire realm to forcefully kill the Yamen god of the pyramid, shaking the entire world. After that, everyone guessed that the Dragon King was so powerful because he had obtained the Dragon Soul. Now that Song Li had obtained the Dragon Soul and condensed the body of a true dragon, coupled with his previous experience as a god, it was bound to be even more terrifying. It was almost 100% possible to fight above one's level. It was even very likely that it would be very easy to kill the god who had ignited 2 wisps of divine fire. Let's go. Song Li's eyes flickered with intense confidence as divine light spread out from his body. Bus. With a wave of his arm, he led everyone to teleport forward. When their figures appeared next to a dark ancient land, a surprised voice sounded from their mouths. Someone has already entered the dark divine kingdom before us. The golden-armored middle-aged man's eyes flickered as he scanned his surroundings. His gaze landed on Song Li. They aren't from the pyramid, the fire god palace, or the holy church. They should be from other gods. I wonder how many of them are there. Interesting. But that's good too. They have saved us a lot of time. Let's go. Song Li said indifferently. His face was filled with intense confidence. The golden-armored middle-aged man nodded. In the current earth, no god would be a match for the true dragon son of heaven. So, the group of people moved and quickly flew inside. Because there was no evil at the entrance, the group of people moved very quickly and soon arrived inside the divine kingdom. Seeing the vast divine kingdom that was like a beehive, the people behind them sucked in a deep breath of cold air. TSK, he even took away a transcendent level demonic core. He should be from a god faction. Could it be that fellow from the celestial race? Song Li's gaze swept past the demonic corpse in front of him and continued flying forward. So many demonic corpses. Even if they are at the transcendent level, they are still a huge fortune. The group of disciples from Sky Finger Mountain looked over with burning eyes. They followed behind the golden-armored middle-aged man and flew forward. There's someone in front. When they flew about 100 kilometers, the sound of fighting could be heard. Song Li and the golden-armored middle-aged man looked at each other, their eyes shining with a divine light as they looked inside. Buzz buzz. Buzz buzz. The 2 of them sped up and arrived in front of the group. Haha, this is too awesome. Everyone put in more effort. There are still over 3,000 beasts. Kill them. The 2 of them floated in front of them. The excited voices of the Dragon Gate disciples could be heard from the front. Ha! At this moment, Xiao Ran suddenly turned around and looked at the 2 people in the sky. His pupils could not help but narrow slightly. He swept his gaze behind him and saw that there were still a few hundred people flying over from behind. Boom! Xiao Ran waved his arm, and terrifying flames separated the people of Dragon Gate Academy from Wuxia temporarily. Who are you people? He asked the few hundred people behind him with some vigilance. His gaze flickered as he looked at Song Li and the golden-armored middle-aged man. Dragon Gate Academy? Wei Haoge, who was at the back, saw Xiao Ran. He raised his brows slightly and said softly, "Dragon Gate Academy? The disciple of the Dragon King. Did the Dragon King bring you here?" The golden-armored middle-aged man's gaze fell behind Xiao Ran and looked toward the interior of the divine kingdom of darkness as he asked faintly, "Everyone, may I know why you are here?" Xiao Ran cupped his hands toward them and asked with a frown, "I'm asking you a question. Did the Dragon King bring you here?" Song Li looked at Xiao Ran indifferently and said coldly. At the same time, a wave of dragon might from his body covered Xiao Ran. "En?" Xiao Ran's expression changed. He spat out blood and his face turned pale. "Dean? Brother?" Everyone from Dragon Gate Academy was shocked and quickly came to Xiao Ran's side. "My master is indeed inside. My master should not have any enmity with you, right?" Xiao Ran wiped his hands and waved at the people from Dragon Gate Academy. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said to Song Li, "Naturally there is no enmity. I am just a little curious as to what the Dragon King, who is known as the head of the true dragon, is capable of." "Ah." Song Li smiled and a mighty aura spread out from his body. "Lord Dragon God, among the group of Dragon Soul recipients, only the Dragon King has yet to ignite the divine fire. In front of you, he naturally doesn't have the right to be called the head of the true dragon." Wei Haoge respectfully flattered him from behind. This Dragon King can kill a god. Presumably he has already obtained the Dragon Soul for a long time, but he is somewhat useless and has yet to ignite the divine fire. Song Li's face revealed a faint smile as he commented, "It's already a great opportunity for the Dragon King to obtain the Dragon Soul. How is it possible for him to become a god after more than 10 years? The golden-armored middle-aged man said expressionlessly. They had all cultivated to become gods in the past, and every single one of them had spent thousands or even tens of thousands of years. This time they had fallen and resurrected because they had the cultivation experience of the past. Igniting the divine fire was not that easy. Haha, I've long wanted to meet that Dragon King. Today I'll get to know this legendary figure." Song Li laughed loudly. He saw the area that was separated by the flames and waved his hand. Roar! 100-meter-long wind dragon condensed from the wind attribute roared and blew out the flames. The thousands of demonic beasts were instantly killed. "Brother Xiao Ran, you must have obtained a lot of demonic cores. Please give them to us." Wei Haoge looked at the demonic beasts' corpses on the ground and saw that many of the demonic cores had been dug out. He pursed his lips and said with shining eyes, Chapter 1930. 1930 True Dragon? 1. Brother Xiao Ran, you have obtained quite a number of demon cores, so please give them to us. In the Dark God Country, Wei Haoge's voice suddenly rang out, causing Xiao Ran and the people from the Dragon Gate Academy to be slightly stunned. Very quickly, Xiao Ran and the others' expressions slowly turned ugly. "Finger Sky Mountain, don't go too far, these demon cores were all obtained by us." A disciple of the Dragon Gate Academy roared angrily. Brotherly, let's go meet that Dragon King. I wonder where his confidence comes from. He actually barged into this dark ancient land alone and relied on that divine weapon." Song Li swept his gaze over and ignored him as he spoke to the golden-armored middle-aged man. Divine weapon. A trace of greed flickered in the golden-armored middle-aged man's eyes. He quickly nodded and gestured to the group of silver-armored subordinates behind him before flying forward. The silver-armored middle-aged man's gaze slowly looked at the people from Dragon Gate Academy as his body emitted a powerful aura. Wave after wave of demigod-level might erupted and charged towards Xiao Ran and the others. Among them, there were a few silver-armored middle-aged men whose might was not weaker than Xiao Ran's. "Haha, Principal Xiao Ran, take out the demon nucleus. Don't force us to make a move." Wei Haoge laughed loudly and said to Xiao Ran with his head slightly raised, "Give them the demon cores." Xiao Ran sensed the powerful aura of the silver-armored cultivator and growled at his subordinates with an extremely ugly expression. "Dean?" Some people gritted their teeth with unwillingness on their faces and threw all the demon cores in their hands to them. "Haha, don't be so unwilling. The items in this dark ancient land don't belong to you. The items here belong to our Lord Dragon God and Lord Golden God. As for the so-called Dragon King, you have to stand aside. If that Dragon King doesn't know what's good for him, who knows, hee hee. The corners of Wei Haoge's mouth slightly curled up as he smiled at Xiao Ran and the others. Put away the demon cores on the ground and give half to the silver-armored cultivators. We'll go find Lord Dragon God and the others. He ordered the disciples. It's the Mountain Master. The hundreds of disciples of Skyfinger Mountain excitedly picked up the demon cores on the ground and flew into the dark divine kingdom. Damn it, they stole all of our demon cores. Headmaster, are we going to let them go just like that? A disciple of Dragon Gate Academy said angrily as he watched them leave. That youth in the dragon robe just now looks like the true dragon son of heaven. Song Li, brother, teacher won't be in any trouble, right? Lu Mingxin looked at their departing figures and revealed a worried expression. True dragon son of heaven, Song Li? The expressions of the students of the Dragon Gate Academy also changed slightly. That golden-armored youth is also a divine dragon. However, the leaders beside teacher should also be quite strong. Xiao Ran's expression changed. He did not know exactly how strong his master was, but just as the outside world knew, his master did not light the divine fire. If his master really obtained the dragon soul to have such powerful strength, then the true dragon son of heaven Song Li who lit the divine fire must also be very powerful. He was not sure if his master was Song Li's match. What should we do? Although the Dragon King is strong, he didn't ignite the divine fire. The surrounding disciples of Dragon Gate Academy also revealed anxious expressions. Let's go. Xiao Ran clenched his teeth and followed the sky-pointing mountain and the silver-armored cultivators. Let's go. The members of Dragon Gate Academy immediately followed behind, their eyes filled with worry as they flew inside. Roar, roar, roar. About 200 kilometers away from the Kingdom of Darkness, more than 100 members of the Demon War Department were fighting at a terrifying speed. Around them, many demigod-level demons were being slaughtered rapidly. We're almost at the deepest part. Wang Xian, Ao Xingmu, Ao Qitian, Ao Jian, Ao Qi and Ba Qi stood there quietly. They did not make a move from the beginning to the end. For the time being, there was no evil that could make them make a move. At the end of the altar there were more than 10 huge nests. 3 of them were emitting a dark luster. At the center of the end there was something similar to a dark altar. On top of the altar, there were dozens of praying mats. Wang Xian looked at the altar curiously. Swoosh. At this moment, an extremely terrifying shadow attacked them. The shadow was not very big. It was only about 2 meters in size. It had 8 legs and each of its legs had extremely sharp blades. It almost teleported and attacked Wang Xian who was in the middle. Ha! Wang Xian looked at the evil demon who was attacking him calmly. Its speed is pretty fast. However, it is still much slower compared to the Ao demon. His eyes met with the evil demon's. When the evil demon saw Wang Xian's calm expression, it had a bad premonition in its heart. GG. It let out a sharp cry and immediately turned around. Bang! However, at this moment, an incomparably huge dark palm that was filled with scales and horns gripped its body tightly. Dragon King, a wisp of divine fire, Yao Xie. Ao Qitian stared at the Yao Xie in his hand and said, "Save me." The Yao Xie sensed Ao Qitian's terrifying power and roared in fear. Roar. Humans, how dare you intrude into our lair? I'm going to eat you. A wild roar was heard, and at the end of the Dark Kingdom, 2 huge bodies flew out. One of them had 3 eyes, a long tail and a body full of sharp thorns. The blood-red eyes of the lizard-like demonic beast were staring at them. The other demonic beast was as big as a snake. There was only 1 pale white eye on its head, and there were many sharp thorns on its upper body. Each of their bodies was 3 to 4 kilometers long. The first demonic beast was the terrifying existence that attacked the Ling Shao treasure palace. 2 demonic beasts that are comparable to 2 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 2 demonic beasts and landed on the demonic beast in Ao Qitian's hand. He waved his arm and the shadow of the Dragon Nation flashed past. The demonic beast that had just attacked them died instantly and entered the Dragon Palace. Roar! When the 2 demonic beasts saw their comrades being killed instantly, their eyes revealed a look of fear. Although demonic beasts were extremely brutal, demonic beasts of the godly state were not lacking in intelligence. The group of people in front of them posed a great threat to them. They bent their bodies slightly and stared at Wang Xian and the rest warily. TSK, they actually came to the deepest part of the cave. Two demonic beasts that are comparable to two wisps of divine fire. It's just as I expected. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked behind him. Chapter 1931. 1931 True Dragon? There were two figures. One of them was dressed in a green dragon robe. His face was filled with confidence and pride. The other was a middle-aged man who was dressed in golden armor. A golden radiance enveloped his entire body. The two of them swept their gaze across the two demons at the end of the line. They revealed a relaxed expression on their faces. Song Li. When Wang Xian saw the expression of the young man dressed in a green dragon robe, a faint smile appeared on his face. He knew this young man, but the other party might not know him. If Wang Xian remembered correctly, he was the seventh god to obtain the dragon soul. He was also a god who had fallen before. More than a month ago, he condensed the true form of the divine wind dragon and ignited the divine fire. From Song Li's body he could feel a very familiar aura. Dragon King? As he was sizing up the other party, Song Li also looked at him slowly. His face was filled with curiosity and mockery. The son of heaven of the true dragon, Song Li? The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he looked at him with a hint of evil humor. Haha, I didn't expect the Dragon King to know my name. It's such an honor. However, it seems that you've encountered some trouble, Dragon King? Two demonic demons that can rival two wisps of divine fire. I wonder how you're going to deal with them? Song Li looked at Wang Xian and laughed out loud. He didn't put Wang Xian and the two demonic beasts in his eyes at all. May I know why you two are here? Wang Xian's expression didn't change at all when he heard what Song Li said. He asked faintly. I'm here to hunt down the demonic beasts and find some treasures along the way. I didn't expect that there would be an unexpected surprise this time. The golden-armored middle-aged man was also sizing up Wang Xian. His eyes sparkled. Oh. Wang Xian saw the greed in his eyes and raised his eyebrows slightly. Dragon King, go and attack these two demonic beasts. Let me see your strength and let me see what you can do as the leader of the true dragons. At this moment, Song Li, who was hovering high in the air, suddenly said to Wang Xian. There was a hint of an order in his voice. Why should I let you witness my strength? Wang Xian looked at him and said calmly. These two people in front of him had some ulterior motives. Haha, since you're not going, I'll go then. Song Li didn't get angry at all when he heard his words. Instead he laughed out loud. His cold gaze swept across the two demonic beasts that were comparable to two wisps of divine flames. Roar, roar. He raised his head and let out a wild roar. A wave of dragon might filled the surroundings. I am the Wind Divine Dragon. Today you are fortunate enough to witness my strength. Ah. He let out an excited roar and spread his arms. Under the somewhat shocked gaze of the golden-armored middle-aged man, his figure slowly transformed into a divine dragon. The divine dragon was 2,000 meters long and had powerful and dazzling green scales. Its horns were like deer, its head was like a camel, its eyes were like a rabbit, its neck was like a snake, its belly was like a clam, its scales were like fish, its claws were like an eagle, its paws were like a tiger, and its ears were like an ox. Unlike the other divine dragons, the Wind Divine Dragon had a pair of green and tough dragon wings. The Wind Divine Dragon was the only divine dragon among the divine dragons that had wings. Their speed was the fastest among all the divine dragons. A majestic and vast aura emanated from his body. Crash. The dragon wings spread out and made a sound. It was as powerful as a prison. Song Li used the body of the wind god dragon and swept his majestic gaze across the golden-armored middle-aged man, Wang Xian, and the rest. Then he slowly looked at the two evildoers in front of him. Roar, roar. The two demons could feel the powerful pressure from Song Li's body. Their eyes revealed a hint of seriousness and fear. They let out a low roar and could not help but take a few steps back. Roar, roar, roar. Song Li's eyes were filled with excitement as he let out a wild roar. As he felt the powerful force coming from his body, a strong sense of confidence shot out from his eyes. Two little demons, go to hell. He waved his huge dragon tail and attacked the two demons directly. The entire interior of the Kingdom of Darkness was instantly covered by the green wind attribute energy. The golden-armored middle-aged man hurriedly retreated to the back. "Let's retreat and see his strength," Wang Xian said to Ao Qitian and the rest. He also retreated to the back. He was smiling as he looked at Song Li's divine dragon body and its powerful aura. He also wanted to know how strong Song Li was. How strong was that divine dragon body? "Roar! I will tear you apart." Furious roars came out from the mouths of the two demonic beasts. Their similarly huge bodies attacked Song Li directly. As demonic beasts, the most powerful thing was their physical bodies. At the same time, ordinary demonic beasts possessed powerful poisons and corrosive abilities. The two demonic beasts directly pounced towards Song Li's divine dragon body. A physical battle? Then I'll let you bunch of beasts experience the body of a divine dragon. When Song Li saw the two demonic beasts attacking him, there was not a hint of fear on his face. In fact, he even waved his huge tail and charged towards the demonic beasts. Boom! Bang bang bang! The divine dragon waved its tail and its huge tail charged towards the demonic beasts. A metallic sound rang out from the collision. The entire body of the demonic beast was made of bones and sharp spikes. However, Song Li's divine dragon body, the scales that were emitting green light, and the dragon tail that was supported by the dragon bones, were not afraid at all. The terrifying collision was 1 against 2. The two demonic beasts were instead sent flying backwards. Although Song Li's body was also sent flying backwards, it was obvious that he was at an advantage. "Roar roar, I'll let you guys experience the domain of the wind divine dragon." Song Li roared excitedly. The green energy around him enveloped the entire 50 kilometers radius. The two demonic beasts slowly lowered their bodies. Waves of dark energy surged on their bodies. Their bloody eyes stared at Song Li anxiously. Wind dragon roar. Song Li flapped his huge dragon wings. The wind elemental energy in the surroundings began to go berserk. Countless amounts of energy condensed into the shadows of wind dragons and attacked demonic beasts directly. Roar, roar, roar. When the two Yaoxia saw more than 10 wind dragons that were thousands of meters in size charging at them, they opened their mouths and a black liquid that looked like sulfuric acid attacked the wind dragons that were condensed from energy. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A strong corrosion came over and the wind dragons were corroded. This is only the beginning. Song Li opened his mouth slightly when he saw this. He flapped his wings again and immediately more than 10 wind dragons formed and attacked once again. What's going on in the depths? Is the Lord God fighting? It's the Lord Dragon God's voice. Quick, quick, let's go take a look. At that moment, the people from Sky Mountain and the silver-armored cultivators approached from behind. When they sensed the sounds of battle coming from inside, they all sped up and rushed over. Behind them, Xiao Ran and the others from Dragon Gate Academy also sped up. A hint of worry appeared on their faces. That's right. When they came to the depths and saw the divine dragon and the two demonic beasts fighting, they were slightly shocked. Chapter 1932. 1932 True Dragon? 3. A wind god dragon that was 2 to 3,000 meters long waved its tail and long dragon wings. As the dragon wings flapped, more than 10 enormous wind dragons formed and attacked the two evildoers. The violent wind dragons were very lifelike and had an extremely powerful pressure. The people from Sky Mountain and the silver-armored cultivator looked around and their eyes fell on the majestic dragon god. They took a deep breath. That's Lord Dragon God. Lord Dragon God is fighting two demons alone. That demon with the bone wings is like a lizard. He's the one who attacked the Lingxiao treasured palace. This demon seems to be comparable to two wisps of divine fire. The other demon is no weaker than the bone-winged lizard demon. These are two gods that are comparable to two wisps of divine fire. Lord Dragon God is fighting two invincible demons alone. The people of Skyfinger Mountain looked at the invincible wind god dragon with heated expressions. Fighting against two wisps of divine fire Yaoxia alone was a strength that even the Lingxiao Palace had to be wary of. Hiss, that true dragon son of heaven Song Li is so strong. He can fight against two powerful Yaoxia alone. Also he can turn into the legendary divine dragon of China. Is the true dragon son of heaven so strong? Why do I feel that his strength is even more terrifying than our dragon kings? The people from the Dragon Gate Academy took a deep breath when they saw this scene. Their eyes were filled with shock. Even when the Dragon King killed the Yamen god, he wasn't this strong. Kiki Dragon King, the poison on these demons can threaten gods. I'll get some later. At the side, Ba Qi looked at the demonic beasts in front of him and said with a smile. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. Ba Qi was in charge of the department. Now that Mo Sha had joined forces with the two old cowards, the current system department of the Dragon Palace was unusually powerful. At their current position, the two of them had already developed toxins that could threaten godly state experts. This was a significant improvement to the strength of the Dragon Palace. When the toxin created by Ba Qi and the rest allowed the Firehammer clan to completely integrate it into their weapons and daggers, it could produce an extremely terrifying effect. This was especially so for the Strange Demon clan and the Heavenly Eye Arrow clan. It was a qualitative improvement. He looked at Song Li's wind god dragon body with a satisfied expression. The dragon soul of the land of the 9 dragons was originally the land of the dragon veins. After receiving the blood of the divine dragon from Wang Xian, it gained sentience. In addition to the true god that Song Li had condensed, it could be said that this divine wind dragon in front of him, other than not having the divine dragon transformation, which was the cultivation method of the dragon race, was not much different from an ordinary divine dragon. At the very least, with the body of the divine dragon, he could easily fight against opponents of a higher level. In addition, Song Li was once a godly state expert and had a wealth of experience. There was no pressure for him to fight against 2 wisps of demonic fire. In fact, with his current strength he could even fight against the god of the divine fire on the 3rd floor. This was Song Li's strength and also his ability to be arrogant and superior. Wind Divine Dragon, Wind Tornado. At this moment, Song Li's explosive voice sounded once again. He flapped his huge wings and 2 wind dragons slowly flew out from them. These 2 divine dragons were obviously more powerful and terrifying than the divine dragons formed by the wind attributes just now. The 2 divine dragons were entangled together, and the speed of their entanglement was getting faster and faster. In front of them, they formed a dragon head with a radius of about 20 kilometers. The dragon opened its mouth and attacked the 2 demonic beasts. The 2 demonic beasts barely managed to resist the attack just now. When they faced the tornado that was attacking them again, their eyes showed fear. Roar, roar, roar. They kept retreating all the way to the side of their nest. Roar, roar, roar. The 2 demonic beasts let out brutal roars again, and the nest behind them suddenly exploded with an extremely dense dark energy. Roar. The 2 evildoers jumped heavily and attacked the dragon head at the front of the tornado. Behind them, the nest seemed to be following them. Within the pitch-black nest, dark energy condensed into all sorts of evildoers, and tore at the dragon head within a 20-kilometer radius. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of an explosion rang out, and the tornado quickly dissipated under the attacks of the 2 evildoers. Did they use the power of the dark lair? Song Li looked at the dark lair behind them, and a cold expression appeared on his face. In that case, Storm God Valley, suppress it. With a dragon's roar, he raised his dragon head high, and a Storm God Valley appeared behind him. The valley within a radius of 50 kilometers was filled with dense wind elemental energy. This was Song Li's divine kingdom. Dragon Plate. Song Li came to the sky above the divine kingdom and settled down in the middle. Waves of wind elemental energy surged towards his body. His divine dragon body was slowly surrounded by wind elemental energy, and his body quickly reached the size of a radius of dozens of kilometers. Song Li settled down in the sky above the divine kingdom and directly suppressed the 2 evildoers. Hiss, the divine dragon has occupied the divine kingdom and suppressed the demonic beasts. Lord Dragon God's strength is simply too terrifying. The people from Skyfinger Mountain looked at this scene in shock and sucked in a breath of cold air. The golden-armored middle-aged man's pupils constricted slightly as he looked at Song Li with fear in his eyes. Roar. The 2 demonic beasts looked at the powerful and invincible Song Li as he shook his body violently. He brought the dark lair behind him and charged straight at them. The Dark God Nation wasn't big enough for them, so they had nowhere to hide. Dragon Claw. The Storm God Valley collided with the 2 dark lairs. Song Li stretched out 2 huge dragon claws and clawed at the 2 demonic beasts. Boom. Not good, get down now. Dodge. A violent collision sound was heard. The faces of the Sky Mountain people and the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy changed slightly, and they immediately shouted. A terrifying wave of wind rushed out in all directions. Even those at the third or fourth level of the demigod rank had to lie on the ground to avoid the aftershock. Roar! 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 Two miserable screams were heard. Everyone narrowed their eyes and looked toward the center of the battlefield. Haha, two little demons, how dare they act so impudently in front of me? The aftershock of the collision slowly dissipated and a loud laughter was heard. Everyone who was lying on the ground was slightly shocked as they looked up at the wind god dragon that was entrenched in the sky above the kingdom of God. At the end of the kingdom of God of darkness, the two dying bodies of the two demons were lying on the ground, twitching slightly. Song Li swept his gaze across the two demons on the ground. The dragon's body was coiled and coiled as he slowly turned his head to look at Wang Xian and the rest. The might of a true dragon is so terrifying. The golden-armored middle-aged man was shocked. Chapter 1933. 1933 True Dragon? 4. Not long after igniting the divine fire, he was able to suppress two gods that were comparable to two wisps of divine fire. With the body of a true dragon suppressing them, this invincible appearance could only be described with two words. How terrifying. Even the golden-armored middle-aged man was extremely shocked. Although he was also a god that had fallen before, now that he had ignited the divine fire once again, he believed that even if he could easily defeat a god of the same level, he could even fight against two wisps of divine fire. However, he absolutely could not suppress two wisps of divine fire. Even if he faced one, it would be extremely troublesome and he would flee in panic. However, now Song Li could easily suppress two. This terrifying fighting strength was something only a god of three wisps of divine fire could do. Hiss, our Lord Dragon God is so strong. A group of Sky Mountain experts' disciples lay on the ground, looking at Song Li who was crouching above the divine storm valley, with deep reverence on their faces. Lord Dragon God is invincible. Lord Dragon God is mighty. Wei Haoge immediately knelt on the ground and shouted at Song Li. Lord Dragon God is invincible. Lord Dragon God is mighty. The group of Sky Finger disciples immediately knelt on the ground and shouted. Ha ha ha. Hearing the words of his subordinates, Song Li laughed loudly, and a domineering look appeared on his face. He slowly lowered his head, his huge dragon eyes staring at everyone. Those who worship me, I will protect you. Song Li said in a dignified manner, his gaze slowly landing on the golden-armored middle-aged man. Li Qingtian, before you died, you were the god who ignited 6 wisps of divine fire, and I, the dragon god, had already ignited 8 wisps of divine fire. Now that I have obtained the dragon soul, I am the true dragon son of heaven. I will definitely step onto the eternal path in the future. Now, follow me and I will take you all further. Song Li stared at the golden-armored middle-aged man. His dragon whiskers trembled slightly as he smiled. Li Qingqian's expression changed slightly when he heard his words. As a god he rarely followed others. Of course, if the other party was powerful, it would be a good choice to follow experts. Song Li had called him over today. It was obvious that he had such a plan. Seeing his terrifying strength, Li Qingtian was a little hesitant. After all, the other party was the son of heaven of the true dragon. Song Li, can someone else's dragon soul be taken away? Suddenly, Li Qingtian glanced at Wang Xian and asked Song Li directly. Oh. When Song Li heard his words, a meaningful look appeared on his face. He looked at Wang Xian with his dragon eyes and revealed a teasing expression. Once the dragon soul is fused with someone, it will disappear completely. Even if we kill it, no one else will be able to obtain it. He said faintly, the following earth is not very safe. Even if it's you, it's hard to say if you can survive. Follow me and I will guarantee your safety. As Song Li spoke, Li Qingtian revealed a disappointed expression. He hesitated slightly. Greetings, Dragon God. Not long after, Li Qingtian knelt on one knee and bowed to Song Li. Ha 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 ha. A carefree laughter came from his mouth. Dragon King, what about you? All of a sudden his smile stopped. He looked at Wang Xian and a cold glint shot out from his eyes. A powerful dragon's might covered the area below. Ha! Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the sudden words. Then a funny expression appeared on his face. What? The faces of the disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy changed slightly when they heard Song Li's words. Was this son of heaven of the true dragon going to subdue the Dragon King? I'm not interested in following you. Wang Xian shook his head faintly and stared at him with a twinkle in his eyes. Haha, everyone on Earth is calling you the leader of the true dragons. I would like to know what the others will think if I, the dragon god, subjugate the leader of the true dragons. Song Li seemed to have not heard Wang Xian's words as he laughed out loud. You can fantasize about it yourself. Wang Xian looked at his arrogant expression and said faintly. Huh? Song Li squinted his eyes slightly. He extended his gigantic dragon head towards Wang Xian and a blast of air gushed out from his nose. This is not up to you. Surrender or die. With the last sentence he let out a furious roar. He crouched down and lifted his body up high. A wave of murderous aura gushed out in all directions. The group of demigods trembled as they felt the terrifying killing intent. Li Qingtian stood up slowly from the side. With a wave of his arm, a golden halberd appeared in his hand. He stared at Wang Xian. Obviously, once Wang Xian refused, he would launch a fierce attack. This is bad. Upon seeing this scene, the faces of the people from Dragon Gate Academy changed drastically. They stared at the Dragon King with worry on their faces. Xiao Ran also clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with anger. With just you. Wang Xian looked at Song Li, who was looking down at him from above. He retracted the smile on his face and asked indifferently, Haha, are you not worthy? Then let me see your true dragon body. I wonder if your blood can temper my dragon body. When Song Li heard Wang Xian's words, he laughed out loud. When he knew that the Dragon King was in the Kingdom of Darkness, he already had a plan in mind. Either the Dragon King would submit to him or he would kill him. He wanted to see if the Dragon King's blood could help him improve a little. Unfortunately, this foolish Dragon King had to choose the latter. Lord Dragon God, a fellow who has not ignited the divine fire. Even if he has a dragon soul, I can still kill him. Leave it to me. Clang. The long halberd in Li Qingtian's hand trembled slightly. A sharp metallic sound resonated within a radius of tens of kilometers. The tip of his long halberd was emitting a little resplendent luster. The long halberd was slowly aimed at Wang Xian. Even though he knew that the Dragon King had killed a god with a wisp of divine fire back then, he was still very confident in his own strength. You're really courting death. Wang Xian looked at them and shook his head slowly. You're the one who said that our Lord Dragon God is courting death, right? Wei Haoge stood at the side and said coldly. You're courting death. Xiao Ran heard his words and swept his cold gaze over. Tsk, you're the one who's courting death, Dean Xiao Ran. When your master dies, it'll be your turn. Wei Haoge raised his head slightly and looked at Xiao Ran. His eyes were sparkling. Since you don't want to submit, then die. Li Qingtian waved the long halberd in his hand coldly and attacked Wang Xian directly. A golden glow seemed to be attacking from the center of the world. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Ao Xingmu, who was standing beside Wang Xian, slowly raised his arm. The thorns wrapped around Li Qingtian in an instant, including the long halberd in his hand. Li Qingtian froze instantly. Waves of bright and sharp golden rays slashed towards the thorns, but there was no reaction at all. This shocked him greatly. What? Everyone around was stunned. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.